Dragon Ball. The story begins with defeating Goku. Chapter 81. Vegeta, U. Seeing Vegeta kill G-Ice, who was already powerless to resist, Son Goku couldn't help but frown. But no matter what, the person was already dead, and he could only sigh helplessly. Kakarot, you are too naive. Even if you let him go, let him leave Earth, he might come back to Earth again after some time. At that time, are we supposed to let him go again? Vegeta said with a sneer. Vegeta, why would you say that if we let him go and leave Earth, he would come back to Earth again in the future? After seeing how powerful we are, would he still dare to come to Earth again and pose a threat to Earth? Everyone except Piccolo was a little confused. As for G-Ice's death, apart from Son Goku, the others were actually already inclined to kill him. It's simple, because of the failure of the Ginyu Force, Frieza will probably come to Earth soon. So if that G-Ice doesn't die now, he might also come to Earth again with Frieza at that time. Vegeta pouted. Frieza. Judging by the name, is this person the leader of the Frieza force you used to be with? Krillin and the others asked. That guy, precisely. Then Vegeta told everyone some of the situation. And as he slowly explained, even Son Goku and Gohan, who knew the least about the situation, also learned about the Frieza force's situation and the new crisis Earth might face from Frieza. Actually, there's nothing to be afraid of if Frieza comes. Not to mention the strength of that guy named Piccolo among you, just looking at this prince's strength alone, Frieza's 530,000 power will definitely not be our opponent. After Vegeta finished speaking, he glanced at Piccolo. Currently, Vegeta felt that although his strength was already very strong, he probably wasn't a Super Saiyan yet. Because he could feel that his current strength would not be Piccolo's opponent. And if he had truly become a Super Saiyan, it would be impossible for him not to be able to defeat Piccolo. In Vegeta's opinion, as long as he could become a true Super Saiyan, then his strength would definitely steadily surpass Piccolo. And everyone who heard Vegeta's last words also felt a little relieved. However, even though they knew they could handle the threat from Frieza, they didn't dare to be too careless. They understood that in the coming days, they must be on high alert and be prepared for Frieza's arrival on Earth at any time. And as a transmigrator, Piccolo knew more than them even if Vegeta didn't say anything. For example, Piccolo knew very clearly that Frieza's true battle power was definitely not just 530,000. 530,000 battle power was only Frieza's first form's battle power. Frieza could transform several times, and Frieza's final form at 100% power could reach 120 million battle power. No one present, except for him, Piccolo, would be Frieza's opponent. Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta would have to learn to transform into Super Saiyan to surpass Frieza. Time returned to when Ginyu and G-Ice's scouters exploded due to Vegeta's battle power exceeding 230,000. On planet Frieza number 79, very far from Earth. Frieza and the others, who had been receiving information from Earth through their scouters, had now stopped receiving information. Vegeta's battle power actually exceeded 230,000, why is this? What did he experience on Earth, why does he have such powerful battle power? Zarbon and Dodoria were trembling with fear. Lord Frieza, although we can no longer know exactly what will happen next. But it seems the Ginyu force is probably going to be completely wiped out by Vegeta. Zarbon did not know about Ginyu's body change technique, so in his opinion, facing a Vegeta of that strength, even the Ginyu force had no chance of winning. Frieza did not reply to Zarbon, he fell into deep thought. Unlike Zarbon and the others, he knew about Ginyu's body change technique. So, logically speaking, from his perspective, even if Vegeta's battle power exceeded 230,000, Ginyu might not necessarily lose. But a strong bad premonition told Frieza that the Ginyu force was probably finished. So he said to his subordinates. Oh ho ho ho. Everyone, prepare yourselves, this king has decided to personally go to Earth. Yes, Lord Frieza. Everyone replied in unison. They understood that in the current situation, only Lord Frieza himself could lead the trip to Earth. After all, with the strength of their subordinates, they would not be a match for Vegeta's 230,000 battle power. Then, after some preparations, Frieza, Zarbon, Dodoria, and hundreds of Frieza's other subordinates boarded their disc-shaped spaceships and set off for Earth. Frieza believed that as long as he personally took action, there was nothing he couldn't handle. Vegeta's battle power of over 230,000, he could easily deal with the opponent just by using his first form. Back on Earth. After a discussion, everyone went their separate ways, as they couldn't just stay put and wait for Frieza's arrival. In the days that followed, Vegeta cultivated even more diligently in the gravity chamber. Although he had absolute confidence that he could defeat Frieza with 530,000 battle power with his current strength, he still wanted to be as strong as possible when facing Frieza. And Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Xiaosu, and Yamcha also entered a state of cultivation, striving to improve their strength. Although they knew that even if they cultivated, they would not be a match for Frieza, and dealing with Frieza would still rely on Piccolo and the others. But at that time, they could be responsible for dealing with some of Frieza's subordinate henchmen. And Piccolo followed Goku and Gohan to Mount Paozu. It was fine if they didn't come back, but as soon as they returned, Son Goku's family home exploded. The father and son's long absence from home made Chi-Chi furious and she erupted in a fit of rage. She scolded the two of them. And Goku and his son, knowing they were in the wrong, silently endured Chi-Chi's wrath without daring to retort. And what about Piccolo? He naturally chose to hide far away, so as not to be caught in the crossfire. Although he was far away, as a Namekian with excellent hearing, Piccolo could naturally hear every word of Chi-Chi's scolding of Son Goku and his son. The content included telling Gohan to give up cultivation and choose to study diligently, striving to become an excellent scholar when he grew up. This made Piccolo realize that if he wanted his disciple Gohan to continue cultivating well and not become Nobi Gohan in the future, then he, as a master, would have to come up with some ideas. For example, finding a way to get some money for Son Goku's family. Time passed quickly. Half a month later. Inside a large, disc-shaped spaceship speeding through the universe. Reporting to Great Frieza, we will reach Earth's atmosphere in about 5 minutes. A Frieza Force soldier walked up to Frieza and reported respectfully, bowing at the waist. Oh ho ho ho, is that so? Frieza said, then walked to the protective glass at the very front of the spaceship and stopped. Soon, he saw Earth slowly growing larger and larger in his vision. Oh ho ho ho. Is this Earth? It's much smaller than this prince imagined. Frieza said with a dismissive sneer. He felt that if it weren't for Vegeta's antics, he probably would never have personally visited such a remote small planet like Earth in his entire life. Such a small planet, Great Frieza, you could destroy it with a casual wave of your hand, couldn't you? Zarbon spoke. He and Dodoria followed closely behind Frieza. Oh ho ho ho, Mr. Zarbon, you are absolutely right. Frieza said with a laugh. Great Frieza, this time, do you want to destroy Earth directly from outside the planet, just like you did when you destroyed planet Vegeta before? Dodoria asked. Oh ho ho ho. No, that would be too boring, too easy for Vegeta. Since this prince has come personally, it's only natural that I torment him thoroughly before killing Vegeta. This prince wants that brat to understand what kind of heavy price he must pay for betraying this prince. Frieza said coldly. On Earth. They're here. Although Frieza's spaceship was still some distance from Earth, everyone could already feel Frieza's powerful aura rapidly approaching Earth. After predicting the approximate landing point of the aura, everyone began to depart from their respective locations one by one. 5 minutes later. Great Frieza, our spaceship is about to enter Earth's atmosphere. One of Frieza's subordinates reported. Oh ho ho ho. Finally arrived. Then let's land. Frieza's lips curved slightly upward. As the Frieza Force's spaceship descended towards Earth's surface. Everyone on Earth had already arrived at the predicted location and gathered. Soon. From a distance in the high sky, everyone saw a small black dot. There was no need to guess, that must be the Frieza Force's spaceship. Among those hundreds of auras, one aura's power is astonishingly great. That must be Frieza, right? Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, and Xiaosu felt that with their strength, they had no way to contend with the owner of that powerful aura. HMPH. Frieza, are you finally coming? Vegeta narrowed his eyes, looking at Frieza's spaceship, and couldn't help but murmur softly. Recalling the fear once dominated by Frieza, and the humiliating days when he, as the dignified Saiyan prince, had to work as Frieza's subordinate. Creak. Vegeta clenched his fists. He was determined to defeat Frieza with his own hands today. He believed that with his current strength, he could definitely put an end to the humiliation he had suffered before. Hey, Frieza will be dealt with by this prince later. None of you interfere or try to snatch him from this prince. When Vegeta said these words, his gaze was mainly on Piccolo, Goku, and Gohan. Krillin and the others were not Frieza's opponents to begin with, so they naturally had no objections. Piccolo and the others also nodded. They knew about the grudge between Vegeta and Frieza. Piccolo felt that Vegeta's strength was perfectly capable of handling Frieza's first form. Therefore, there was no need for him, the strongest on Earth, to make a move immediately. He could act later when the situation called for it. That's good. Vegeta was very satisfied. Soon. Rumble. Frieza's disc-shaped spaceship successfully landed at a position relatively far from them, in front of everyone. After the spaceship's hatch opened. Tap, tap, tap. A large group of people, who were clearly aliens by their appearance, walked out. And from the clothes they wore, it was clear that these people were all members of the Frieza force. Finally, Frieza, followed closely by Zarbon and Dodoria, also emerged from the spaceship. Oh ho ho ho. Earth is a bit small, but the environment seems quite good. Frieza said with an evil, charming smile. Just then. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Piccolo and the others suddenly appeared before Frieza and his group. The arrival of Piccolo and the others naturally immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the Frieza force. Oh ho ho ho. Vegeta, I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Frieza immediately spotted Vegeta among Piccolo's group. As he spoke, he pressed the scouter he wore over his eye. Beep beep beep. Oh ho ho ho. Vegeta, you're still alive, and on this Earth, the battle power scouter doesn't show any reaction from the Ginyu force. It seems they really have been eliminated by you. Vegeta said disdainfully, so what? Except for Piccolo throwing a frog that turned Ginyu into a frog, all the other members of the Ginyu force were killed by his own hands. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. This prince thinks you should know the consequences of betraying this prince, Frieza. Frieza said with a cold tone. HMPH. Enough talk. If you're going to fight, just get straight to it. Vegeta said arrogantly. Tap. As he spoke, he moved to a position directly in front of Frieza. Come on. Vegeta was full of confidence. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta, you really are arrogant. You brat, you must have forgotten just how powerful this prince truly is, haven't you? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Frieza's body began to emit faint currents of chi. He knew that none of his subordinates would be a match for Vegeta. So, dealing with this arrogant Vegeta could only be done by Frieza himself. Zarbon and Dodoria, knowing their boss was about to make a move, quickly distanced themselves from Frieza. Vegeta, let me help you recall just how powerful this prince truly is. Even if your battle power exceeded 230,000 and you eliminated the Ginyu force. But in this prince's eyes, you are still just an ant. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Frieza's body emitted an astonishing white aura. Rumble. The ground trembled violently and continuously. Some of the surrounding mountains became precarious, giving the impression that they could crack and collapse at any moment. Frieza's 530,000 battle power aura was now completely unleashed. Piccolo, Goku, and Gohan remained composed and calm in the face of Frieza's terrifying aura. However, Krillin, Tien Shinhan, and the others were utterly shocked. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. Do you recall the fear of being dominated by this prince? Frieza said to Vegeta with a sinister laugh. HMPH. Nothing special. Your power is nothing remarkable. Vegeta said dismissively. Vegeta, are you out of your mind? How dare you say that Lord Frieza's power is nothing remarkable? Frieza's subordinates found Vegeta's words incredibly presumptuous. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. Next, this prince will let you personally experience the nothing remarkable power you speak of. Whoosh. Frieza shot out with a sound of tearing through the air. Saiyan monkey. Die for this prince. He fiercely threw a punch at Vegeta. In Frieza's view, facing his mighty 530,000 power level attack, the arrogant Vegeta would be instantly killed. However, the reality was beyond his expectations. Bang! Vegeta swiftly gripped the wrist of Frieza's attacking hand, stopping his punch mid-air. Frieza was utterly shocked at this moment. He increased the force of his punch, but it still couldn't advance an inch. So, he launched his other hand at Vegeta. Bang! Vegeta steadily caught Frieza's other punch with his palm. Then, both sides held their current positions, beginning a test of strength. Beep beep beep. On Frieza's latest scouter, Vegeta's power level constantly fluctuated. His power level is actually. Boom. The scouter exploded, and Frieza's vision was obscured by smoke. Ha ha ha, how about it, Frieza? This prince told you your power was nothing remarkable, didn't I? Saying this, Vegeta increased his output. He suddenly pushed his hands forward. Vegeta remained stationary, while Frieza was sent flying backward. Rustle rustle. After his feet violently scraped the ground for a while, Frieza stabilized himself. What happened? Lord Frieza actually lost to Vegeta in a test of strength. Many of Frieza's subordinates exclaimed. The scene before them was truly unbelievable. One of Frieza's subordinates ran back into the spaceship, then ran out again, shouting loudly. The large scouter in the spaceship shows Vegeta's current power level has reached 700,000. Upon hearing this news, all of Frieza's subordinates, except Zarbon and Dodoria, began to panic. Vegeta's cultivation in the gravity chamber seems to have paid off, Piccolo thought. Vegeta is indeed powerful, Frieza's aura was so astonishing. Yet he can still firmly overpower him. Krillin couldn't help but say. But at the same time, he was a bit puzzled. Because logically, after Vegeta displayed a stronger power than his opponent, the guy named Frieza's expression should have shown some panic, more or less. However, at this moment, the opponent's expression was very calm, without a trace of panic. Oh ho ho ho. Vegeta, your power is much stronger than this prince imagined. I must say, you are indeed much more capable than your worthless father, King Vegeta. But even so, you still won't be this prince's opponent. The calm Frieza said with a crooked smile. HMPH. You dare say this prince is still not your opponent? Wasn't it obvious just now? Your power is simply inferior to this prince. Vegeta thought Frieza's words were nonsense. Oh ho ho ho. That's right, this prince's power was indeed inferior to yours just now. But do you really think that was this prince's true strength? Frieza said with an evil charm. What? That wasn't your true strength just now. Don't joke around, isn't your strength 530,000? Vegeta looked disbelieving. In his impression, Frieza's strength was 530,000. Oh ho ho ho. Whether it's true or false, this prince will let you witness it. Aha. Suddenly, Frieza used his aura to shatter his battle suit. Krillin and the others were startled, not knowing what Frieza was up to. Piccolo, Zarbon, and Dodoria, however, knew very well what Frieza intended to do next. Ha ha ha, Frieza. Is this what you want this prince to witness? This prince is truly dying of laughter. You can't possibly think shattering your battle suit can increase your power level much, can you? Vegeta laughed mockingly. But before Vegeta could laugh too long, he saw. Click click click. Ha! Frieza roared, clenching his fists. The intensity of his chi rapidly increased. Soon, Frieza's torso swelled dramatically like an inflated balloon. Then, his arms and legs rapidly elongated and visibly became much more muscular. With a contorted expression, Frieza pulled his head and neck, which were sunken into his torso, upwards. After Frieza's head emerged, it grew larger, and the two horns on his head curved like bull horns. Krillin, who now understood why Frieza had been so calm earlier, widened his eyes in astonishment. Looking at the tall Frieza, Vegeta had stopped his mocking laughter. He could feel that Frieza's aura was at least twice as strong as before. You can transform just like a Saiyan's. Vegeta stared intently at Frieza. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. Don't confuse your Saiyan garbage Great Ape transformation with this prince's. This prince's transformation doesn't require specific conditions like your Saiyan Great Ape transformation. This prince can transform whenever I want, without any restrictions. Frieza said very disdainfully. Lord Frieza still had such a hidden technique. Frieza's subordinates breathed a sigh of relief at this moment. Zarbon and Dodoria, however, had expressions of, we knew it all along. As Frieza's right-hand men, they naturally knew that their boss could transform. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. This prince's current power level has already reached over 1 million. No matter what, you are definitely dead now. Frieza paused, then continued. Oh ho ho ho. Anyway, Vegeta, you're going to die soon. It wouldn't hurt to tell you another secret before you die. A secret? Vegeta asked, puzzled. Oh ho ho ho. Actually, the destruction of your Saiyan planet Vegeta and all the Saiyans on it at the time was not caused by a massive meteor impact. It was caused by this prince personally. Frieza said with a sinister grin. Oh ho ho ho. When planet Vegeta exploded, the sight was truly like spectacular fireworks. Everyone else present, aside from Vegeta, naturally heard Frieza's words. Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, and Xiaosu couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This Frieza is truly vicious. Son Goku and Gohan, the father and son pair, frowned. Although they had no particular feelings for planet Vegeta and the Saiyans on it. Perhaps because of the Saiyan bloodline flowing through them, their hearts were still somewhat stirred at this moment. Piccolo felt nothing, as he, the transmigrator, had already known about these things. Furthermore, he knew that the biggest reason Frieza eliminated the Saiyans was due to an order from Beerus the Destroyer. King Vegeta had secretly kept the most comfortable pillow in the entire universe for himself. He had given the second most comfortable pillow in the entire universe to Beerus the Destroyer. King Vegeta's actions angered Beerus the Destroyer when the truth came out. This led Beerus the Destroyer to order Frieza to destroy planet Vegeta and eliminate the Saiyans. HMPH. This prince thought it was strange and unreasonable a long time ago. Planet Vegeta was fine, then it was suddenly and inexplicably destroyed by a giant meteor. So that's what happened. Vegeta stared at Frieza, his gaze sharp as a knife. Oh ho ho ho. Speaking of which, Vegeta, you should actually thank me. If I hadn't destroyed planet Vegeta specifically when you were away, seeing as you were somewhat talented, you would have died a long time ago and wouldn't be alive today. Frieza said triumphantly, a look of mockery on his face. HMPH, thank you. The reason you kept this prince around was simply because you wanted to use this prince's power to help your Frieza force conquer planets. Vegeta clenched his fists. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. Think whatever you like. In any case, you'll be a dead man soon. Frieza said indifferently. HMPH. Frieza. This prince admits he was startled by your transformation. I didn't expect you to have such a trick up your sleeve on top of your 530,000 battle power. But, speaking of this, Vegeta's mouth suddenly curved upwards. He then smiled and continued. But if you think this is enough to defeat this prince, you are gravely mistaken. Frieza was startled. Vegeta, Frieza, you weren't the only one hiding your strength during the last battle. This prince only used half of his power in the previous fight. Since your power doubles after transforming, then this prince will use all of his power. As he spoke, the veins on Vegeta's forehead began to bulge rapidly. Ah! He roared, striking a pose. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Powerful waves of chi continuously surged out from Vegeta's body. Rumble rumble rumble. The ground shook violently. Ah! When the power surge ended, a large circular crater appeared centered beneath Vegeta's feet. At this moment, Vegeta had raised his aura to its maximum, unleashing his full strength. 1.4 million. This was the battle power reading on Piccolo's system battle power detector for Vegeta at this moment. This level of strength firmly surpassed Frieza's second form battle power of 1.06 million. Bang! Vegeta delivered a heavy punch straight to Frieza's abdomen. Ah! Frieza clutched his lower abdomen, a fierce sensation of pain flooding his entire body. Vegeta's speed had been too great. Frieza, slightly stunned after seeing Vegeta unleash his full power, had no time to react. After the pain subsided slightly, Frieza swung a hand blade horizontally at Vegeta standing before him. Vegeta quickly jumped up, dodging the attack. Whoosh whoosh. Vegeta flipped in the air with ghostly speed. He arrived behind Frieza. Ha! Vegeta delivered an elbow strike to Frieza's back. Frieza was struck down, sprawling on the ground. Haha, you look pathetic, Frieza. Vegeta said mockingly, crossing his arms over his chest. You brat. Frieza climbed up from the ground. He rushed toward Vegeta and threw a punch. Swoosh. Vegeta dodged it. Frieza threw continuous punches. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Vegeta's 1.4 million battle power allowed him to calmly dodge every punch Frieza threw. Clang. Vegeta counterattacked, delivering a rising dragon punch to Frieza's jaw. Urgh. Frieza wore a mask of pain as his body flew upward into the air. Vegeta pursued the advantage. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. He shot up quickly, arriving above Frieza. Clang. Vegeta clasped his hands together and delivered a heavy hammer blow down on Frieza. Frieza's body, which had been flying upward, began to plummet rapidly toward the ground. Rumble rumble. Frieza slammed heavily into the ground, his body embedded in a large crater, kicking up clouds of dust. HMPH. Still quite tenacious. Vegeta sensed Frieza's chi at this moment and found that although his power had weakened, the intensity of his chi was still not low. Clearly, his previous attacks had not inflicted overly fatal damage on his opponent. However, he wasn't worried, since his strength firmly exceeded Frieza's, defeating him was only a matter of time. We've definitely won, Krillin said excitedly. Seeing Vegeta, who was using his full power, utterly dominate the transformed Frieza. Everyone present, except Piccolo, felt that the outcome was decided. Lord Frieza is still no match for Vegeta even after transforming. Zarbon and Dodoria only knew that Frieza could transform, but they didn't know how many times Frieza could transform. Therefore, both of them and Frieza's other subordinates were starting to panic. If Frieza failed, it meant they would also die alongside him. Vegeta would absolutely not spare any of them after defeating Frieza. After a short while, clap, Frieza climbed out of the crater. Although he had no fatal injuries, he had many small and large wounds all over his body. These wounds allowed the Cosmic Emperor to distinctly feel the taste of pain. Frieza stared intently at Vegeta in the air. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. Your full strength is indeed not simple, it is very strong and formidable. To be able to beat me in this form into the state I'm currently in. Frieza paused slightly, then continued in an extremely ferocious tone. But precisely because of this, you have completely enraged me. And in this world, anyone who dares to provoke my wrath is destined for a terrible end. Next, this prince will make you feel horror and despair that is even more terrifying than death. The killing intent currently emanating from Frieza was endless, like a flood bursting its banks. In response, Vegeta showed extreme disdain. HMPH. Frieza. Even after transforming, you still couldn't defeat this prince. Under these circumstances, you can still spout a bunch of meaningless threats. Don't you think you look ridiculous, like a stray dog? Vegeta's voice was full of mockery. In his view, Frieza was simply raging in impotence. Oh ho ho ho. Idiot, it's true that you just defeated this prince after his transformation. But who told you this prince can only transform once? Frieza sneered with a wicked charm on his face. Hearing this, Vegeta was slightly stunned. If he hadn't misunderstood, Frieza's words meant that his transformation ability was not limited to just once. Oh ho ho ho. Every time this prince transforms, his power increases drastically. Saying this, Frieza held up 2 fingers. Then he continued. Twice. There are still 2 more times. This prince can transform 2 more times based on his current form. Frieza's tone was filled with the confidence and dominance befitting a cosmic emperor. Vegeta's pupils involuntarily contracted slightly, and his expression became serious. Frieza, that guy. Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, and Xiaosu couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. That's great. Lord Frieza wasn't using his full power just now, he can continue to grow stronger through transformation. The panic had vanished from the faces of Frieza's subordinates, they eagerly anticipated their boss's next transformation. Piccolo quietly watched everything, which was already within his expectations. The Saiyan warrior genes in both Son Goku and his son made them feel a faint excitement. That is how Saiyans are, the stronger the opponent, the more excited they become. Open your eyes wide and look carefully, Vegeta. You should feel immensely honored that you get to witness this prince's second stage transformation. After speaking, Frieza began to transform. Yeah. Frieza roared and raised both hands high. Then, with a fierce exertion of strength, he lowered his hands and clenched his fists tightly. Ka. Frieza, whose body was now arched, instantly grew 3 sharp spikes on his back. Yeah. Frieza gritted his teeth. Kaka. The hard armor on his shoulders curled up and extended horizontally outward to both sides. Yeah. Frieza's head began to change. His head bulged in both the forward and backward directions. The two horns on his head quickly disappeared, and then 6 sharp silver horns appeared symmetrically on both sides of his head. Finally, Frieza, whose body had become horizontally broader and slightly hunched, appeared before everyone, his facial expression becoming exceptionally sinister and ferocious. Monster. Vegeta could sense that the intensity of the opponent's aura was completely different from before. Furthermore, all the injuries he had previously inflicted upon Frieza had completely healed during the transformation process. Oh ho ho ho. Vegeta, let us begin a new round of fighting now. Saying this, Frieza quickly charged straight toward Vegeta. Whoosh. Facing Frieza, who was charging directly at him, Vegeta moved quickly, vacating his original position. The transformed Frieza clearly surpassed him in the intensity of his aura. Under these circumstances, Vegeta knew he definitely wouldn't win if he chose to clash head-on with the opponent. Oh ho ho ho. Seeing Vegeta dodge, Frieza pursued him. Whoosh. Seeing Frieza continue to chase him, Vegeta chose to keep evading. Whoosh. 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 The two sides continued their chase, one pursuing and one fleeing. Vegeta, having rigorously cultivated in the gravity chamber, had more confidence in his speed than his strength. In Vegeta's opinion, even if Frieza's power now surpassed his own, as long as his speed was fast enough, he, Vegeta, wouldn't necessarily lose this battle between them. As for Vegeta's thoughts, Frieza seemed to be able to read his mind. He smiled wryly while chasing Vegeta. Oh ho ho ho. Interesting, interesting. Your speed is truly impressive, Vegeta. It seems this prince will have to use his true speed. Vegeta was initially unconcerned by Frieza's words. After all, anyone can talk big. However, in the very next instant, after he moved at high speed again, he halted his forward movement. Without him clearly seeing the opponent's movements, Frieza suddenly appeared in his path, blocking his way. How could this be? Vegeta was filled with disbelief. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Vegeta, refusing to believe it, tried several more times. But without exception, Frieza was able to suddenly appear in front of him every time, without him being able to clearly see his movements. It could be said that his, Vegeta's, movements had been completely locked down by Frieza. Oh ho ho ho, Vegeta. Once this prince used his true speed, you couldn't keep up. But you don't need to be nervous. After all, this prince said before that he would make you feel horror and despair that is even more terrifying than death. So naturally, he won't kill you instantly. Frieza looked at Vegeta with a playful expression. Next, he intended to torture Vegeta mercilessly, like a cat playing with a captured mouse. He would repay the pain Vegeta had inflicted on him 100-fold. Ha-ya. Frieza extended 2 fingers toward a non-vital spot on Vegeta's body. Vegeta felt agonizing pain. He had been struck by Frieza's attack. Frieza, having landed a hit, did not stop his assault. He continued to attack with 2 fingers. Vegeta quickly dodged. However, even though he desperately tried to move sideways at the fastest possible speed, tisk! His cheek was still sliced open by Frieza's attack, leaving a bloody wound. Ha-ya! 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 Frieza used 2 fingers on each hand to continuously and frantically launch a storm-like attack against non-vital parts of Vegeta's body. Bang bang bang. Facing Frieza's rapid, rain-like assault, Vegeta had nowhere to hide. Frieza now far surpassed Vegeta in both power and speed. If Frieza hadn't deliberately spared Vegeta's life just to torture him, Vegeta would likely have died already. Frieza is truly a monster. Watching Vegeta being beaten helplessly by Frieza after his latest transformation, large beads of sweat involuntarily trickled down Krillin's face. Frieza had previously stated that he could still transform twice more. This meant that Frieza, whose power was already completely crushing Vegeta, still had one final transformation left unused. Krillin truly couldn't imagine how terrifying Frieza's power would be once he used all of his transformations. Krillin had originally thought that since Piccolo, Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta were all present for this crisis on Earth, their immense strength would surely allow them to resolve the crisis easily. But now, Krillin was no longer so certain. Frieza's power was so immense and unfathomable. Even Piccolo and Goku might not be a match for Frieza, right? It seems Vegeta is no match for Frieza. Piccolo, Gohan, after Vegeta, can I be the one to fight Frieza? Son Goku requested, pressing his palms together. Please. You can. Piccolo nodded, having no objection. Since he would still have a chance to step in later, there was no harm in letting Son Goku have the opportunity first. Alright, Dad. After a moment of hesitation, Gohan also chose to nod and agree to his father's request. Although he was itching to go and fight Frieza himself, seeing the pleading look in his father's eyes, he couldn't bear to refuse as a son. Krillin, who was still contemplating Frieza's power, also overheard their conversation. Krillin asked, Goku, are you confident you can defeat Frieza? Unconcealed worry was written on his face. Krillin's question was also what Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, and Xiaosu wanted to know. So, at that moment, they all turned their gazes towards Son Goku. I don't know. If that guy called Frieza only has this level of power, I'm confident I can beat him. But, he still hasn't used his final transformation yet. So, exactly how things will turn out, I'll only know after a good fight with him. As he spoke, Son Goku turned his attention back to the battlefield where Frieza and Vegeta were fighting. Vegeta was covered in wounds from head to toe. Thud. Vegeta could no longer maintain his Bukujutsu and fell to the ground. Gazing at Vegeta on the ground, tormented until he was barely recognizable, Frieza sneered contemptuously. Oh ho ho ho. Vegeta, how pathetic you look. You brat are simply no match for this king. Vegeta endured the pain in his body and struggled to crawl back up from the ground. Looking up at Frieza, who was staring down at him from high in the sky, Vegeta felt extreme unwillingness to accept defeat. To become stronger, he had undergone grueling hell-like gravity training. Yet in the end, he was still no match for Frieza. His power still could not overcome the massive obstacle that was Emperor of the Universe Frieza. Oh ho ho ho. Vegeta. This king is done playing around in this battle with you. Now, let this king send you to your grave. Frieza raised a finger. Immediately, a purple energy sphere crackling with lightning appeared on his fingertip. Soon, this energy sphere, containing terrifying destructive power, rapidly expanded until it was a full 10 meters in diameter. Ha ha ha, that brat Vegeta's time to die has finally arrived. Frieza's subordinates cheered excitedly, as if they were the ones about to kill Vegeta. Oh ho ho ho. Goodbye, Vegeta. Frieza pointed his hand toward Vegeta. The gigantic purple energy sphere, with streaks of lightning running across its surface, shot straight toward Vegeta. Facing Frieza's energy sphere that was about to engulf him, Vegeta felt utterly helpless. Should he actively call for help from Piccolo and Kakarot? Doing so would certainly save him, but his intense pride as the Saiyan Prince clearly would not allow him to do that. However, the reality was that even if Vegeta didn't actively call for help, Piccolo and Goku would still choose to intervene and help him. Vegeta's previous act of eliminating the Ginyu Force had already earned him the recognition of the Dragon Ball Z warriors. Seeing that the energy sphere was about to strike Vegeta, Son Goku had already left the group. He quickly arrived directly beneath Frieza's energy sphere. Then, he forcefully used both hands to catch Frieza's energy sphere. He intended to stop the energy sphere from continuing toward Vegeta. Oh ho ho ho, you're looking for death. Frieza was extremely disdainful of Son Goku's action. Although the energy sphere he fired had been held back slightly in power so as not to destroy Earth along with Vegeta, it was definitely not something that just any insignificant nobody could withstand. Just as Frieza was thinking this, his expression froze the next second. He saw that the energy sphere, which had been hurtling toward the ground, had stopped moving forward under the pushing force of Son Goku's hands. Moreover, there were faint signs of it being pushed back. Oh ho ho ho, it seems you have some skill, no wonder you dared to save him. Frieza curled his lip. At the same time, he developed a slight interest in Son Goku. In fact, he had naturally seen Son Goku among Piccolo's group before this moment. He simply hadn't paid much attention. After all, not just any insignificant nobody was worth the serious attention of him, the Cosmic Emperor. But now, looking closely at Son Goku's appearance, he suddenly seemed to recall something. This guy who could withstand his energy sphere, he seemed to have seen his appearance somewhere before. Gohan, go bring Vegeta back here. Piccolo said. Okay, Uncle Piccolo. So Son Gohan flew to Vegeta's side. HMPH. What a bunch of meddling fools. Vegeta was not grateful for their actions. Regardless of Vegeta's willingness, Gohan grabbed one of his arms and brought him back to the others. Ah! Son Goku emitted an intense white aura of chi, increasing the force in his hands. Frieza's energy sphere finally began to move backward under Son Goku's push. Facing the energy sphere that was now rushing back toward him, Frieza quickly sidestepped to the left. After grazing Frieza's body, the energy sphere shot into the sky, flying toward the universe space outside of Earth. After dodging the energy sphere, Frieza kept his eyes locked on Son Goku. In Frieza's mind, Son Goku's appearance was slowly merging with someone he had seen before. Finally, Frieza remembered. When he destroyed planet Vegeta, there was a Saiyan who resisted until the very end, and he looked exactly like this fellow in front of him. You are a Saiyan, just like Vegeta. Frieza frowned and asked Son Goku in a hostile tone. Son Goku was stunned. He did not know why Frieza suddenly asked this question. But he still replied, I suppose so. The reason he said, I suppose so, was that psychologically, Son Goku still leaned more toward being a native of Earth. Oh ho ho ho, so that's it. Frieza felt that this made sense. No wonder the opponent looked so much like a certain Saiyan he had seen before. He figured the opponent must have a relatively close blood relationship with that Saiyan who resisted stubbornly until the very end. In reality, this was Son Goku's father, the Saiyan Bardock. Of course, he did not care what the exact relationship was. It was just that since he confirmed the opponent was also a Saiyan, Frieza absolutely could not let him go. Having witnessed Vegeta's strength, which was enough to defeat his second form, and this guy in front of him, who had the power to push back his energy blast, Frieza vaguely felt that maybe the legend of the Super Saiyan was real. To prevent that legend from happening, Frieza swore to kill every single Saiyan, leaving none alive. Oh ho ho ho. Your strength is not bad, boy. If you were not a Saiyan, this king might consider not killing you, but instead letting you become my subordinate. It is a pity you are a Saiyan. Therefore, you only have one path left, death. Frieza felt a bit of pity for Son Goku. If the opponent were not a Saiyan, given his ability to push back Frieza's previous energy blast. After joining the Frieza force as his subordinate, the opponent would definitely enjoy better treatment than Captain Ginyu. What are you thinking? Even if I were not a Saiyan, and you were willing to let me be your subordinate, I would still refuse. I could never do evil things like you. Son Goku's tone was firm. Then he curled his lips and said with a confident smile. Secondly, you said I only have one path left, death. Sorry, I am not as easy to kill as you think. Saying this, Son Goku assumed a fighting stance. Oh ho ho ho. You are not that easy to kill. It seems you are quite confident. Seeing that Son Goku was ready to fight him, Frieza grinned, twisting the corner of his mouth as he spoke. Since you are so confident, then let this king see just how capable you truly are. After speaking, swoosh. Frieza's speed was like lightning, charging straight towards Son Goku. Facing Frieza's attack, Son Goku chose not to dodge. Clang! Their fists collided violently, causing the surrounding air to tremble and emit a deafening boom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Powerful currents of chi spread out in all directions, centered around the two of them. Oh ho ho ho. No wonder you are confident. You certainly have some skill, you are stronger than that boy Vegeta. After speaking, Frieza continued his attack against Son Goku. He quickly and forcefully threw a punch straight at Son Goku's face. Whoosh! Son Goku quickly tilted his head, dodging the blow, leaving Frieza's fist to hit only air. Then Son Goku delivered a sweeping kick. Bang! Frieza used his elbow to forcefully block Son Goku's leg attack. Boom boom boom. The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. After grappling for a while, seeing that he could not subdue Son Goku, whoosh! Frieza quickly retreated a distance. Ha! He extended two fingers towards Son Goku and fired an invisible chi blast. Frieza had used this move against Vegeta before, leaving Vegeta unable to avoid it or fight back. Facing the attack, Son Goku quickly shifted sideways. Swish! Son Goku's speed was clearly much faster than Vegeta's, so he easily dodged Frieza's invisible chi blast. Ha! 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 Frieza continuously launched moves, waving his hands non-stop and relentlessly pointing his fingers at Son Goku. Whoosh! 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 Facing the storm-like assault, Son Goku dodged every single blast. Swish! Son Goku disappeared from Frieza's sight in a flash. He appeared behind Frieza. He fiercely swung a chop horizontally toward Frieza's neck. Quote exclamation mark question mark quote. The attack hit nothing. Son Goku realized his chop had struck an afterimage Frieza had left behind. Oh ho ho ho. This king is over here. A moment later, Frieza appeared to Son Goku's left. Oh ho ho ho. Take this move. Frieza grinned menacingly and brought his palms together. Soon, a purple energy blast filled with immense destructive power appeared above his palms. Frieza then fiercely launched the energy blast straight towards Son Goku. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The energy blast's aura was astonishing, rushing towards Son Goku with a piercing sound of tearing air. Son Goku could clearly sense that the power of Frieza's current energy blast far surpassed the one he had used previously. This time, the opponent had chosen not to hold back his strength. Facing Frieza's move, whose power could not be underestimated, Son Goku quickly positioned both hands at his waist. He was seen rapidly gathering energy, condensing an energy ball between his palms that emitted a dazzling light blue glow. Kamehameha wave. Son Goku fiercely pushed his hands forward. The light blue Kamehameha wave shot out from his joined palms like a long serpent. Boom! Son Goku's Kamehameha wave violently collided with Frieza's purple energy blast. Rumble. The two clashing energies resulted in a massive explosion, creating an enormous mushroom cloud in the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The powerful aftermath of the energy clash rapidly spread in all directions. A large group of Frieza's subordinates watching the battle were swept high into the air by the powerful shockwaves. Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, and Xiaosu, the weaker Dragon Ball Z warriors, shielded themselves with their arms and hunched over, struggling to resist the impact of the shockwaves. Rumble. Large mountain ranges in the surrounding area were shattered by the force of the shockwaves. After another moment, the power of the shockwaves finally began to subside. Truly incredible. Too powerful. Krillin and the others could not help but marvel at the immense strength of Frieza and Son Goku. The power of the recent shockwaves nearly knocked them off their feet. Their strength was completely incomparable to that of Frieza and Son Goku. That guy Kakarot, Vegeta, at this moment, had already fully recovered after eating the senzu bean Piccolo gave him. Watching the fierce battle between Frieza and Son Goku, he was so furious and unwilling that he gnashed his teeth. Frieza aside, Kakarot was clearly just a low-class Saiyan. Yet he was also so formidable. His strength had already far surpassed himself, the Saiyan Prince, the super genius of the Saiyan race. Kakarot's strength was sufficient to contend with Frieza's third form, the one who had thoroughly defeated him. Why? Why is it that he, the magnificent Saiyan Prince Vegeta, is actually inferior to a low-class Saiyan like Kakarot? It could be said that at this very moment, Vegeta was extremely frustrated internally. He found it difficult to accept the fact that he was inferior to Son Goku. His pride as the Saiyan Prince had been severely impacted. Uncle Piccolo, my father should be able to win this fight, right? Gohan asked. In his opinion, although Frieza was indeed very powerful, even while reserving his final transformation, he was able to fight his father, Son Goku, at his maximum base power to a draw. But after all, his father Son Goku still had the Kaioken technique unused. Even if Frieza could transform one last time and drastically increase his combat power again, he still shouldn't be a match for his father, Son Goku, after using the X-10 Kaioken, right? Who knows? I think it's hard to say who will win or lose. Piccolo replied with a smile. In fact, Piccolo knew that the one who would ultimately lose this battle could only be Son Goku. But naturally, he couldn't just tell his disciple Gohan the final outcome of the battle. Gohan looked at Piccolo with a surprised expression. He hadn't expected his master to say that. He had thought Master Piccolo would agree with him that his father Son Goku could win. Instead, he received such an ambiguous answer. Stop thinking about it, just keep watching their fight. Piccolo patted Gohan's head and said with a smile. On Piccolo's system detector, Son Goku, currently in his base form, had a combat power of 2.1 million. And Frieza in his third form currently had a combat power of 2.12 million. At present, the combat powers of the two could be said to be almost equal. Hoo hoo hoo. On the battlefield, as a gust of wind blew past, the smoke and dust generated when Son Goku and Frieza's energy beams collided and exploded had completely dispersed. This allowed both of them to clearly see each other. Oh ho ho ho. Your strength, boy, is a bit beyond this king's expectation. I didn't expect that in this universe, besides my own frost demon race, there would be someone whose power could reach a level comparable to this king's third form. You are truly formidable, Saiyan. Frieza stared at Son Goku and spoke with a tone of appreciation. Thank you for the compliment. Son Goku replied with a smile. Oh ho ho ho. But unfortunately, you still won't be a match for me, this king. With that, Frieza descended from the air back to the ground. Based on my previous conversation with Vegeta, this king assumes that you, boy, also know that I have one more transformation left unused. Frieza paused. Then continued. Next, this king is going to use his final transformation. And that is my true form. Although his third form was not inferior in power to Son Goku, it was obvious that a battle of equal footing like this could not easily subdue the opponent. Therefore, Frieza decided to use his final transformation. He wanted to defeat Son Goku using overwhelming power. Only crushing power could better allow the opponent to experience the absolute majesty of him, Frieza, as the Cosmic Emperor. Tap. Son Goku also landed on the ground. The final transformation. That truly is something to look forward to. Son Goku's gaze was fixed on Frieza, and he spoke with a hint of excitement. In fact, his Kaioken was already itching for action. Oh ho ho ho. Everyone who gets to witness this king's final transformation should feel the honor of 3 lifetimes. After speaking, Frieza began to slightly arch his back and clench his fists. Ah ya ya ya. He clenched his jaw. Kacha kacha. Frieza's body continuously emitted strange noises. His aura was climbing upwards little by little. Is Frieza finally going to undergo his final transformation? Everyone's attention was now focused on Frieza. Krillin combined Frieza's current third form appearance, used his imagination, and pictured what Frieza's final form would look like. The result was that it was better not to think about it, but once he did, an extremely terrifying and horrifying image of Frieza appeared in Krillin's mind. This made him tremble with fear and sent chills down his spine. Frieza, are you finally going to reveal your true face? Vegeta gritted his teeth, his fists tightly clenched. Although he had served under Frieza for many years, he had never seen Frieza's true appearance. In truth, if he could, he really wanted to defeat Frieza personally. Unfortunately, his power was insufficient. Forget about Frieza's impending final form. Even Frieza's third form was too much for him, Vegeta, to handle. Now he could only hope that Kakarot could defeat Frieza, or, if Kakarot failed, that Piccolo would step in and take care of Frieza. Boom boom boom. As Frieza's aura grew stronger and stronger, a massive sphere of energy was seen wrapping around Frieza's entire body. Frieza's appearance, concealed by the sphere of light, vanished from everyone's sight. From within the sphere of light, bursts of aura, capable of changing the very color of the sky and earth, surged outwards frantically. Rumble. Rumble. The earth was trembling, and fragments of rock on the ground continuously flew into the air. Many mountains were directly pulverized because they could not withstand the aura generated by Frieza's final state transformation. This aura is too astonishing. Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, and Chaozu were weaker in strength, so they felt somewhat suffocated by Frieza's aura at this moment. Finally. Rumble. The massive sphere of light enveloping Frieza's body exploded. A gigantic mushroom cloud suddenly rose up, stirring up dust and smoke everywhere. Slowly, the smoke and dust gradually dispersed. The figure of Frieza's final form appeared before everyone. This is Frieza's true face. Looking at Frieza's figure, everyone except Piccolo was somewhat surprised. Especially Krillin, he had originally thought Frieza's final form would look fierce and monstrous. However, Frieza's appearance at this moment was completely different from what he had imagined. Frieza's stature now was not as tall and massive as his previous second and third forms. Instead, he looked quite small and delicate. Frieza's skin was almost entirely white at this time. Various parts of his body, his head, shoulders, chest, and calves, were adorned with purple, gem-like muscle plating. Besides that, there were Frieza's ears. Frieza's ears looked like two small inverted bowls. Frieza's eyes looked extremely fierce. One glance was enough to know he was definitely not to be trifled with. In short, this was Frieza's appearance at this very moment. Oh ho ho ho. As you can see, this king's final transformation is complete. I believe it is time for our next round of fighting to begin. Frieza ignored the reactions of the others upon seeing his appearance, instead looking at Son Goku with sharp, hawk-like eyes. Just bring it on, Frieza. Let me see how strong you really are in your final form. Facing Frieza's sharp gaze, Son Goku did not show fear, he spoke with a calm expression. Although Frieza's chi was unfathomably deep after his final transformation, Son Goku still had the X10 Kaioken he could use. Therefore, Son Goku believed the outcome of this battle was still unknown. He had absolutely no need to fear the opponent. Right now, his heart was filled more with the excitement of fighting a strong opponent. Oh ho ho ho. Although I don't know why you can remain so calm after seeing this king's final transformation. I still hope that you, little boy, can last a bit longer against this king's final form. Otherwise, it would be too boring. Frieza finished speaking. TCH. Frieza extended a finger towards Son Goku and shot a purple death beam. Although the death beam looked extremely thin, the energy contained within it was terrifying, and its penetrating power was immense. If measured by power level, Frieza's death beam attack was approximately 4.24 million. This power level was exactly double Frieza's maximum power level in his third form. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The death beam, accompanied by a piercing sound of rushing air, flew straight towards Son Goku. Frieza assumed that Son Goku would choose to dodge this attack. Of course, even if Son Goku chose to dodge as he expected, Frieza believed that with the death beam's super speed, Son Goku would absolutely be unable to evade it. However, in Frieza's view, Son Goku, facing the death beam that was getting closer and closer, chose to stand still, seemingly having no intention of dodging at all. Oh ho ho ho. Facing this king's death beam in his final form, are you so scared that you want to give up immediately, not even wanting to struggle? Frieza thought to himself. And just as Frieza was thinking this, Son Goku's entire body instantly erupted with astonishing crimson chi flames. He used double Kaioken, doubling his power level to 4.2 million. Bang! Son Goku swung a punch horizontally at Frieza's purple death beam. The death beam was split open and quickly flew off in another direction. Oh ho ho ho, interesting. No wonder you were so calm. It turns out you also reserved some of your strength, just like this king. As Frieza spoke, he continued to fire death beams continuously at Son Goku. TCH. 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 Dozens of death beams mercilessly rushed towards Son Goku. Boom boom boom. Using Kaioken, Son Goku, whose body was enveloped in crimson flames, calmly threw out punch after punch. Soon, all the death beams were deflected one by one. Oh ho ho ho. Interesting, truly interesting. It looks like this king will finally have a chance to properly exercise this body in its final form. Ka ka ka. Frieza flexed his muscles. He utilized 5% of his power level, which was 6 million. He rushed quickly towards Son Goku with a knee strike. So fast. Son Goku clearly sensed that Frieza had strengthened his power again. He dared not be negligent. He quickly raised the Kaioken multiplier on his body to 3 times, increasing his power level to 6.3 million. In an instant, the crimson chi flames around Son Goku became even more intense. Bang! Frieza's knee strike violently collided with Son Goku's arm, creating an explosive sound. Oh ho ho ho. Not bad, your power has also continued to increase, just like this king's. Frieza was quite surprised that Son Goku could continuously increase his power level just like him. This battle with Son Goku made him feel increasingly intrigued. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Frieza rapidly threw continuous punches, each punch was fierce and fast as lightning. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Son Goku flexibly dodged Frieza's punches one by one. Clap clap clap. Son Goku used a flurry of kicks, frantically kicking towards Frieza's head. Perhaps because Son Goku's power level was 6.3 million at this time, while Frieza's was 6 million. The extra 300,000 power level allowed Son Goku's flurry of kicks to successfully strike Frieza's head after dozens of attempts. Bang! Frieza, having taken a kick from Son Goku, flew backward. Just as Frieza's body was about to crash into a mountain range. Frieza quickly stabilized his body, escaping the state of weightlessness. Then he charged towards Son Goku again. And threw a high kick. Whoosh! Son Goku flashed away from his original position, dodging the attack. Frieza's eyes flashed brightly. TCH. Frieza simultaneously fired 2 death beams from his eyes, shooting them at Son Goku. Swish! Frieza's death beams hit Son Goku's afterimage. Clearly, Son Goku had dodged the attack. The next second, Son Goku appeared behind Frieza, launching a flying kick at him. In response, Frieza hurriedly turned around. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, intending to block Son Goku's attack. However, Frieza quickly realized. The Son Goku flying toward him was also an afterimage. The opponent's flying kick attack was just a feint. Where did the real person go? Frieza looked around, trying to find Son Goku's location. I'm behind you, Frieza. At some point, without Frieza noticing, Son Goku had arrived behind him. What? Frieza quickly turned his head to look back. He indeed found Son Goku. Snap! Son Goku gripped Frieza's tail tightly with both hands. Let me borrow your tail for a bit. Saying this, Son Goku used both hands to drag Frieza's tail, causing his body to begin spinning madly 360 degrees non-stop. Frieza felt dizzy and disoriented. The feeling of lightheadedness and dizziness was extremely unpleasant. Feeling that he had spun him around enough, Son Goku exerted himself and flung Frieza in a certain direction. Rumble. This time, Frieza was unable to stop his body from flying backward. He crashed violently into one mountain range after another. Smoke and dust rose everywhere. The mountain ranges collapsed. Finally, Frieza's body was buried beneath a pile of rubble. The 300,000 power level difference temporarily allowed Son Goku to overpower Frieza by half a step in this battle. However, Son Goku also understood that although he had gained an advantage and dealt some blows to Frieza in this fight, it was not enough for him to truly defeat Frieza just like that. Son Goku could feel it. Frieza, whose body was currently buried in the ruins, had an aura that hadn't dropped at all compared to before. As expected. Very soon, Frieza emerged from the ruins, completely unscathed. Of course, although Frieza's body was safe and sound, he still had quite a bit of dust on him. This Frieza's durability is truly strong. Goku clearly managed to land a blow on him. Yet, the opponent didn't even have the slightest scratch on his body. Krillin and the others felt a bit regretful for Son Goku. In their minds, it would have been reasonable for Goku's successful attack to have caused Frieza at least some damage. Piccolo, however, felt this was completely normal and nothing to regret. Frieza was, after all, the dignified cosmic emperor. How could he possibly be injured by such a minor attack? Furthermore, the battle between Son Goku and Frieza had only just begun. The more intense fighting between the two of them was still to come. There was absolutely no way Frieza would get injured at this early stage. At this moment, Vegeta was clenching his back teeth so hard they felt like they might break. Watching the recent battle, he deeply understood just how vast the gap was between himself and Frieza and Son Goku. He didn't know how much longer he would need to cultivate before he could reach their level of strength. Clap, clap, clap. Frieza, while dusting off his body, looked up at Son Goku in the air and spoke. Oh ho ho ho. In this world, apart from my father and my brother, you could say you are the first person capable of dirtying my body after I achieved my final form. Hearing this. Is that so? Then it seems I really should feel a little honored. Son Goku replied with a smile. His expression appeared very relaxed. Seemingly noticing Son Goku's composed state of mind, Frieza spoke again. Oh ho ho ho. If I haven't guessed wrong, you brat, up until now, still haven't used your full strength, just like me. Although I don't know exactly how much fighting power you are still hiding. But if I want to thoroughly finish you off, it seems I will have to use some of my true abilities. Saying this, Frieza raised a finger. 10%. I will now use 10% of my power to deal with you. For someone of Frieza's Frieza's clan, 10% of his strength was already considered using his serious power. As soon as Frieza spoke, Son Goku was inwardly startled. The meaning behind Frieza's words was that he was about to start using 10% of his fighting power. In other words, Frieza, who had been fighting him while he was in his triple Kaioken state, hadn't even used 1/10 of his total power. Although the opponent's strength was indeed formidable, this claim seemed far too exaggerated. If his words were true, then Son Goku would have no chance of winning this battle. Could his words just be a bluff? And just as Son Goku was thinking, Frieza's body began to be enveloped in a layer of purple chi flame. This was the first time Frieza had truly unleashed his chi since transforming into his final form. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A fierce and violent aura surged out from Frieza's body like a broken dam. What terrifying chi! Although Son Goku couldn't discern the truth behind Frieza's earlier statements, the aura emanating from Frieza right now was undeniably twice as strong as it had been moments ago. Horia. After completing his chi burst, Frieza's body, wrapped in the violent purple chi flame, shot forward. He charged directly towards Son Goku. Son Goku couldn't afford to think any longer. He further intensified the crimson chi flame covering his body. He used X6 Kaioken to meet Frieza's attack. Bang! The crimson chi flame and the purple chi flame collided fiercely. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A massive aura of chi burst out from the point where the two flames met. Boom, boom, boom. The two sides began a new round of confrontation. Their speed lines continuously crossed and collided in the air. Frieza, using 10% of his strength, now had a fighting power of 12 million. And Son Goku, using X6 Kaioken, currently had a fighting power of 12.6 million. Goku. Dad. Watching the increasingly fierce battle between the two. Krillin, Gohan, and the others watching the fight were all inwardly cheering for Son Goku. But only Piccolo understood. As the fighting power of Frieza and Son Goku grew stronger, Son Goku was getting closer and closer to the inevitable result of losing to Frieza. There was no helping it. The maximum hidden power of the two was simply too vastly different. Boom, boom, boom. Frieza and Son Goku continued their fight. Clang. Frieza's swinging fist was tightly grasped by Son Goku's palm. Facing 10% of my power, can you brat still hold on? Frieza frowned. The opponent's upper limit of strength was higher than he had imagined. 10% of his power was still insufficient to defeat the opponent. Frieza withdrew his fist. Whoosh. His body began to move rapidly. Son Goku's eyes quickly darted, tracking Frieza's position. Suddenly, Son Goku felt Frieza's rapidly moving figure become blurry. His eyes couldn't quite keep up with the opponent's movements. This change made Son Goku realize that the opponent had increased his strength again. Therefore, Son Goku hurriedly increased the Kaioken multiplier again. He raised it to the X8 Kaioken state. Whoosh! Frieza appeared to Son Goku's left. He directly delivered a kick towards Son Goku. Frieza had now boosted his fighting power to 18 million, which was 15% of his total strength. Son Goku's fighting power in the X8 Kaioken state was 16.8 million. Thud. Son Goku reacted quickly. He rapidly adjusted his body position, crossed his arms in front of him, and blocked Frieza's attack. Seeing his attack blocked by Son Goku once again, Frieza felt no displeasure. Instead, a wicked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He could sense that the fighting power Son Goku was using was already approaching its peak. 20%. As long as he used 20% of his strength, he would definitely be able to completely suppress Son Goku. Ah. Frieza's aura surged violently once more. The purple chi flame surrounding him became even more ferocious. He got stronger again. Son Goku's expression was grave. Given the intensity of Frieza's current aura, even if Son Goku used X10 Kaioken, he wouldn't be able to contend with him anymore. Swish. Frieza, now using 20% of his strength and possessing 24 million in fighting power, delivered a headbutt towards Son Goku. Although Son Goku knew that even using X10 Kaioken, he might not be Frieza's match. He still pushed the Kaioken to X10, extended his hands, and clasped them together, intending to meet Frieza's attack. Bang! Son Goku's clasped hands were knocked apart, and Frieza's headbutt slammed hard into his chest. Ah! Son Goku felt an intense pain in his chest, his sternum aching as if it were about to fracture. Gag. He violently spat out a large mouthful of blood, his body rapidly flying backward. Oh ho ho ho. Are you finally starting to fall behind my strength? Seeing Son Goku truly injured for the first time in their battle, Frieza spoke with a hint of mockery. Frieza could feel that after he used 20% of his fighting power, the scales of victory were finally beginning to truly tip in his favor. Of course, he had never once considered the possibility of losing from the very start. The word, loss, simply did not exist in the dictionary of Emperor of the Universe Frieza. It was impossible for anyone in this world to truly defeat him. Whoosh! Frieza instantly flashed forward, quickly catching up to Son Goku, who was still retreating. In response, Son Goku desperately endured the intense pain throughout his body and struggled to stabilize his posture. He then faced Frieza, who was pressing his advantage. Boom! 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 The two continued their fierce exchange. HMPH. Son Goku threw a punch, which Frieza easily dodged. Bang! Frieza's fist violently slammed into Son Goku's face. Ah! Son Goku felt as if his teeth were narrowly saved from being shattered by the impact of Frieza's punch. Bang! 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 In the subsequent fighting, Son Goku was completely suppressed by Frieza. Although Son Goku's 21 million fighting power after using the 10 times Kaioken was not instantly annihilated by Frieza's 20% power, which was 24 million. Son Goku's situation was already precarious, he was being beaten back step by step. Snap! Frieza lashed his tail towards Son Goku's head. Son Goku tried to twist his head to swiftly avoid it. But Frieza's tail was too fast. In an instant, Frieza wrapped his tail around Son Goku's neck. Snap! Frieza's tail bound Son Goku's neck tightly. Ah! Frieza's tail squeezed extremely hard, and Son Goku felt a sense of suffocation. Son Goku tried to use his hands to pry open the tail Frieza had wrapped around his neck. But just as he began to move, Frieza's next attack immediately followed. Bang! While his tail constricted Son Goku's neck, Frieza delivered a vicious elbow strike directly to Son Goku's abdomen. Gag! Son Goku felt his stomach churn, and he spat out a large mouthful of bloody, acidic fluid. Oh ho ho ho. How does that feel? Painful, isn't it? But truthfully, you're quite a tenacious fellow. You clearly aren't a match for me anymore, yet you've managed to keep taking hits for this long. Frieza curled his lip and sneered smugly. Seeing Son Goku in such a miserable state, Frieza felt immense satisfaction. It was worth Frieza using 20% of his power to deal with this Saiyan named Son Goku. Go! Frieza forcefully flung the tail that was constricting Son Goku toward a mountain range. Ah! Son Goku felt like he could finally breathe a little. But the immediate consequence was pain shooting through his entire body. Rumble! Son Goku's body violently crashed into a mountain. Dust billowed, and Son Goku's entire body was buried in the rubble formed by the collapsing mountain. Goku! Dad! Goku! The onlookers shouted loudly. During the course of their observation, they witnessed everything, from Son Goku being evenly matched with Frieza, even having a slight advantage, to Son Goku being suppressed by Frieza, and now to Son Goku being beaten down. Son Goku's current plight made them extremely anxious. They could sense that Son Goku's chi had already dropped significantly. If this fight continued, Frieza would definitely take Son Goku's life. Uncle Piccolo, I have to go help my dad. Gohan said to Piccolo in an anxious tone. As soon as he finished speaking, he started rushing toward the battlefield. His current strength was roughly the same as Son Goku's. Gohan believed that if he joined the fight against Frieza, he and his father, Son Goku, working together would surely be able to defeat Frieza. Due to the distance, only Piccolo, who possessed excellent hearing, could clearly hear the dialogue between Frieza and Son Goku during their fight. Therefore, Gohan did not know that the Frieza who had currently defeated his father, Son Goku, was only using 20% of his power. Come back. Gohan had only run a few steps before Piccolo quickly and forcefully grabbed him. This halted Gohan's charge toward the battlefield. Uncle Piccolo, why won't you let me help my dad? Gohan turned his head and looked at Piccolo, asking in confusion. Gohan, even if you go help Goku, the two of you together won't be a match for Frieza. Pausing here, Piccolo continued. So, the matter of dealing with that Frieza guy next, leave it to your master. A slight smile curled Piccolo's lips, and his tone was filled with absolute confidence. Meanwhile, with Son Goku. Cough, cough, cough. Son Goku laboriously climbed out of the rubble. But before he could even catch his breath, whoosh! Frieza appeared right in front of him, arms crossed over his chest, looking down at him mockingly. Son Goku tentatively tried to move his body. Pain. His entire body ached. In his current physical condition, it was impossible for him to have the strength to continue fighting Frieza. He lost. Son Goku knew he had been utterly defeated in this battle against Frieza. Oh ho ho ho. It looks like you've reached your limit. Frieza deduced his current physical state from Son Goku's attempt to move. Oh ho ho ho. To be honest, even though you weren't a match for me in this fight, your overall display of power wasn't bad. If you were even stronger, I might even suspect that you were the so-called Super Saiyan of legend. Frieza's tone held a playful mockery. But regardless, it is time for this battle to finally end. As he spoke, Frieza pointed one of his fingers towards Son Goku's head. Immediately, a small point of violent purple energy condensed on the tip of his finger. It's time for you to die. Frieza declared Son Goku's death sentence. He prepared to use the death beam as his final move against Son Goku, intending to kill him. Given Son Goku's current physical state, Frieza was confident that the death beam fired by his 20% power self would easily pierce straight through Son Goku's skull. Facing Frieza's death threat, although Son Goku knew he couldn't resist it, he appeared calm. Frieza, I did lose this battle. One could say I lost completely. But I won't die. Son Goku said with a smile on his face. From his expression, no fear could be seen in him at all. Oh ho ho ho. You brat, you're about to die, yet you're still spouting nonsense. Frieza thought Son Goku's words were just rambling. Frieza, I admit your power is very strong, far superior to mine. But even so, among all the people I've seen, you are not the strongest. Among the people I know, there's someone whose power is definitely stronger than yours. When Son Goku said this, he still had a smile on his face, and his smile looked even more unrestrained. Oh ho ho ho. Stronger than this king. What kind of joke are you making? Your joke isn't funny at all. In this universe, besides our Frost Demon race, it's absolutely impossible for anyone to be stronger than this king. Frieza shook his head disdainfully. He didn't believe Son Goku's words at all. Clap clap clap. The purple energy on the fingertip of Frieza's hand, which was pointing at Son Goku's head, was unusually violent. Seeing that Frieza was about to fire the energy at him, Son Goku shrugged and said with a chuckle. I'm not lying to you, the person I'm talking about exists. If you don't believe me, you can look back. This person whose power can surpass yours is standing right behind you now. Son Goku spread his hands, with an expression that said, believe it or not. Oh ho ho ho. Nonsense. Frieza felt that Son Goku's words were becoming more and more outrageous. But for some reason, as if by a ghost's whim, Frieza actually turned his head to look back. And it wasn't a big deal not to look. As soon as Frieza turned his head, he saw a huge, green fist heading straight for his face. Because it was so unexpected, Frieza had no defense against this move at all. Bang! Frieza was sent flying by a punch rapidly thrown by Piccolo, who had suddenly appeared behind him at some unknown point. Rumble. Frieza, who was directly hit in the face by Piccolo, crashed into the ground, creating a large crater. Smoke and dust rose everywhere, and he was completely embedded in the crater. Seeing this scene, Piccolo and Son Goku exchanged glances and then both smiled. With their tacit cooperation, they successfully played a trick on Frieza. If you ask why Frieza didn't notice Piccolo suddenly appearing behind him, the reason is simple. Because Piccolo used instant transmission to appear behind Frieza, so his movement didn't cause any disturbance. Frieza had his back to Piccolo, and his attention was entirely focused on Son Goku. Furthermore, Frieza didn't know how to sense chi. Therefore, Frieza had no idea when Piccolo had unknowingly come to stand behind him. Piccolo, I'm no match for Frieza, I'll leave the task of defeating Frieza to you next. Son Goku said with a wry smile. It seems he still needs to cultivate diligently. There are always people stronger than you, and there's always a higher heaven. Son Goku originally felt that his cultivation had been going well recently, and his power had greatly improved. But now it seems he still needs to put in more effort. There are many people in this universe stronger than him. Leave it all to me. Piccolo nodded, then handed a Senzu bean to Son Goku. At the same time, swish! Frieza flew out of the crater. He was furious. He, the magnificent cosmic emperor, had been tricked. You Earthlings, how dare you mock this king? If Frieza had hair, he would surely be bristling with rage at this moment. Frieza also noticed that every time he was about to kill someone from the opposing group would always come out to interfere. It was like this when he was about to kill Vegeta, and it's like this now when he's about to kill Son Goku. This made him very displeased. At this moment, Frieza saw Son Goku flying towards the crowd of his companions. Frieza then looked at the green guy, the Namekian, who had just sent him flying. If he understood correctly, those guys wanted this Namekian to be his next opponent. He, Frieza, didn't like being manipulated. Moreover, in his subconscious, a mere Namekian was simply not worthy of being his opponent. Yes, they were not worthy. Although Frieza had just been sent flying by Piccolo, Piccolo's punch hadn't used too much power. So Frieza didn't perceive any great power in Piccolo that would qualify him to be an opponent for him, the Cosmic Emperor. In Frieza's impression, the Namekians' combat power was far inferior to that of the Saiyans. Those guys wanting a Namekian to fight him, what kind of international joke was this? Thinking this, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Frieza quickly pursued Son Goku. He wanted to kill Son Goku. Whoosh. Before Frieza could catch up to Son Goku, Piccolo flashed and appeared in Frieza's path, blocking him. Oh ho ho ho. Seeking death. Frieza threw a punch at Piccolo. At this time, he was still in his 20% power state, with a combat power of 24 million. The next moment, something unexpected happened to Frieza. Bang! Piccolo calmly extended his palm and easily caught Frieza's incoming punch. Piccolo's base combat power was over 50 million. A punch from Frieza with 24 million combat power put no pressure on him at all. Frieza gritted his teeth. The opponent's strength was truly immense. His gripped fist couldn't advance an inch. The opponent's power was completely different from what he imagined those Namekians to be. Just by the opponent being able to effortlessly block his 20% power punch, it was clear that this Namekian's power was stronger than that Saiyan named Son Goku. Ding! Strongest God tier choice system activated. Hearing the system's prompt in his mind, Piccolo knew his opportunity was coming. Option 1. Instantly kill Frieza. Reward. Host's base combat power doubled. Option 2. Defeat Frieza after he uses 100% of his combat power. Reward. Host's base combat power doubled. Reward. Host's current 20-fold no damage Kaioken upgraded to 100-fold no damage Kaioken. Reward. Instant transmission Kibito version. Reward. 10,000 Senzu beans. Reward. 100 billion Dragon Ball World currency. Please make a choice, host. This must be the reward the system grants for taking down a major boss in the Dragon Ball saga, right? Piccolo felt that the reward provided by the strongest divine rank second choice system, this time was incredibly generous. Piccolo had already clearly figured out the system's nature. Choice 1 of this system could essentially be ignored. After receiving this system reward, Piccolo's base combat power would reach the small goal of 100 million. And combined with the brand new version of the 100-fold no damage Kaioken, Piccolo's maximum combat power could reach 10 billion. Just thinking that the boost from the 100-fold no damage Kaioken could match the boost of Super Saiyan 2. Piccolo felt overjoyed. In the time to come, before Super Saiyan 3 appears. In terms of transformation, he, a Namekian, would be completely on par with those cheating Saiyans. Next was instant transmission. He would now possess both the Yardratian's instant transmission and the Kibito version of instant transmission. His Piccolo's instant transmission skill would become extremely perfect. 10,000 Senzu beans, this was essentially the same as having unlimited Senzu beans. Finally, the reward of 1 trillion Dragon Ball World currency. As long as he gave this money to Gohan's family, Piccolo believed that his apprentice Gohan would be able to cultivate properly from now on. He had solved a major problem for his apprentice's family. In summary, thinking about the wonderful future after receiving the rewards, Piccolo was in a very pleasant mood. Seeing that his fist couldn't advance even half an inch, Frieza tried to pull his hand back from Piccolo's grasp. However, he found that Piccolo's palm gripped his fist like an iron clamp, making it impossible for him to easily break free. Piccolo, snapping out of his thoughts about the system's rewards, also noticed that he had indeed used a bit too much strength in his hand. Thus, Piccolo released his grip. In order to obtain System Reward 2, he couldn't kill Frieza immediately, he had to wait until his opponent used all his strength. The two separated and put some distance between them. The hand Frieza had just had gripped by Piccolo felt slightly numb. Frieza squinted his eyes and stared at Piccolo. This Namekian was not simple. This trip to Earth really wasn't going smoothly. First Vegeta, then Son Goku, and now this Namekian before him. Each of these people was stronger than the last. Was this the reason he had a bad premonition earlier? Frieza wondered. Frieza, hurry up and use all your power. Use 100% of your power, or you won't possibly be my opponent. Piccolo crossed his arms over his chest and looked sharply at Frieza. Although, even if his opponent used all his power, he still wouldn't be his match. Frieza was stunned for a moment, then spoke. Oh ho ho ho. You truly are a Namekian, your hearing is excellent. It seems you heard the entire conversation this king just had with that Saiyan. Frieza recalled that the Namekian race indeed possessed the trait of extremely strong hearing, a fact stored in the Frieza Force database. But for you to say this king isn't your opponent unless he uses 100% of his power, isn't that a bit too arrogant? Frieza admitted that Piccolo certainly had some skill, but not enough to make him, the Cosmic Emperor, use all his strength. Seeing this, Piccolo could only shake his head helplessly. It seemed that in order to make Frieza use all his strength, defeat him, and complete the mission, he would have to proceed step by step. Although you are not worthy of making this king use all his strength. But you are still qualified to make this king increase his power beyond 20%. Ah! Frieza roared, raising his power to 30%, 36 million in combat power. In order to prove that what he said was correct. After increasing his power, Frieza's purple aura grew stronger, and he immediately attacked Piccolo. Ah da da da. Ah da da da. Frieza repeatedly thrust his hands forward, firing consecutive ki blasts at Piccolo. He was using the prince's fighting style. 30% of his power. While his 50 million combat power could easily deal with Frieza's current level of strength, if he allowed the opponent to attack freely, it would still sting a bit. Kaioken. Piccolo thought for a moment and chose to use 2x Kaioken. A crimson aura burst forth from his body. At this moment, Piccolo's combat power soared to 100 million. Boom boom boom. The dense shockwaves Frieza fired were completely scattered by the powerful chi radiating from Piccolo's body. The ki blasts were shattered and scattered in all directions. How is this possible? He blocked all of this king's attacks just by using his aura. Although he wouldn't judge strength based solely on the aura, Frieza still sensed a dangerous presence from Piccolo in his current crimson state. TCH. Frieza raised his power to 40%, 48 million in combat power. TCH. 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 He continuously fired violent purple death beams from his fingertips at Piccolo. Piccolo, noticing Frieza raising his power again, smiled faintly. As his opponent continuously increased his strength, he got closer and closer to completing the mission. Piccolo, with 100 million combat power, did not have an aura strong enough to block the death beam attacks. Bang! The extremely penetrating purple death beam struck Piccolo's body. Bang bang bang! The continuous death beams relentlessly pounded Piccolo's body. But 100 million combat power was still 100 million combat power, so a death beam of 48 million combat power was naturally useless. Piccolo, after enduring the dense, rain-like death beams, remained completely unscathed. He only had some carbon dust left on his body from the scorched air. Frieza, you should hurry up and use all your strength. Your current level of attack is completely futile. Hearing Piccolo suggest again that he use his full power, Frieza gritted his teeth slightly. Are you really a Namekian? He, the Cosmic Emperor, had already used 40% of his power, yet the attacks hitting the opponent only seemed to tickle him. Judging by the current situation, even if he continued to increase his power, using 50% or 60% of his power, he might still not be his opponent's match. To defeat the opponent, perhaps he needed to use 70% of his power. Piccolo smiled upon hearing Frieza's question. Then he said casually, I am indeed not a Namekian. Frieza. So the opponent just looked like a Namekian, but wasn't actually a Namekian. Although he found it a bit strange. But perhaps that was indeed the case. Just as Frieza was having this illogical thought, Piccolo was seen giving him a thumbs up. He said proudly, I am a Super Namekian. Super Namekian. Frieza was somewhat bewildered. He had only heard of Super Saiyan, but never anything about a Super Namekian. Frieza began to think and recall continuously. However, even if he racked his brain, he couldn't recall any information about a Super Namekian in the Frieza Force database. Seeing Frieza's deeply pondering expression, Piccolo couldn't help but tease him. The title Super Namekian was actually something he had just made up on the spot, but he hadn't expected the opponent to take it seriously. He himself hadn't thought that much into it, alright. He had simply had a sudden thought, recalling Super Vegeta from the original Dragon Ball story, and found it amusing enough to use. He had bestowed the title of Super Namekian upon himself. Hey, Piccolo wasn't afraid of being proven wrong. Frieza, you really don't need to think so much. Although I call myself a Super Namekian, fundamentally, I am still considered a Namekian. It's just that I am much stronger than an ordinary Namekian. With my strength, calling myself a Super Namekian shouldn't be excessive, right? Piccolo shrugged innocently. And his words pulled Frieza out of his thoughts. Frieza felt like he had been fooled again. He knew that he had just basically concluded that Piccolo belonged to a race other than Namekian. Coupled with Piccolo's sneak attack earlier, he, the dignified Cosmic Emperor, had now been played twice by the opponent. Looking at Frieza, whose face was currently filled with rage, Piccolo was completely unconcerned. For him, the angrier Frieza was, the better. The more enraged he was, the sooner he would bring out his full power, making it easier for Piccolo to complete the system's mission. After raging for a while, Frieza calmed himself down. He understood that mere anger wouldn't be enough to deal with the opponent, even the most vicious gaze was useless against him. He clenched his fists, and the veins on his forehead bulged prominently. 45%. 50%. The violent purple chi surrounding Frieza continuously surged and exploded. 55%. 60%. To deal with this hateful Namekian before him, Frieza knew he needed stronger power. 65%. Frieza's aura grew increasingly powerful. Centered around his body, swirling airflow caused the nearby air to tremble incessantly. Rumble. The earth cracked, and dirt and rocks flew everywhere. 70%. Frieza shone brightly, bursting forth with dazzling light. The sky collapsed, the earth shattered, and mountains roared like tsunamis. Slowly, as the light surrounding Frieza faded, the surrounding environmental commotion subsided. After a fierce display of power, Frieza completed his strength increase. 70% of his power, this was the maximum strength Frieza could use without enduring a heavy burden on his body. Frieza narrowed his eyes. Oh ho ho ho. Are you ready to die? He looked at Piccolo with sharp eyes and said. Hearing this, Piccolo lazily placed his hands behind his head, then spoke in a languid tone. Sigh, Frieza, although your strength has increased, it's still not enough. Why can't you just do what I said earlier and quickly bring out your full power? Frieza's 70% power was 84 million battle power, which was still somewhat short of his own 100 million battle power in double Kaioken state. This made Piccolo unable to muster much excitement. Oh ho ho ho. You look down on this king's 70% power. Frieza naturally couldn't guess Piccolo's thoughts. In his mind, the opponent was so calm certainly because he didn't understand how terrifying his 70% power was. Although Piccolo was very strong, if he only used 50% or 60% of his power, he probably wouldn't be able to beat him. But now he was using 70% of his power. This Namekian truly didn't know his place or the immensity of the universe. Whoosh! Frieza bent his body into a bow shape and then shot out explosively. Hoo hoo hoo! Accompanied by the sound of rushing air, Frieza had already arrived in front of Piccolo. He swept out a whirlwind kick. Bang! Piccolo blocked it directly with his forearm. Although he didn't take Frieza's 70% battle power seriously, the opponent's current 84 million battle power was already enough to break through his 100 million battle power defense. Therefore, Piccolo still adopted a defensive stance against Frieza's attack. Ah da da da. Ah da da da. Frieza delivered a dense flurry of punches, his offensive momentum as fierce as a fully automatic assault rifle. Bang bang bang. Piccolo continuously used his palms to catch every single one of Frieza's punches. Frieza gritted his teeth. Was this the source of the opponent's arrogance and his basis for looking down on his 70% battle power? Frieza could analyze that while Piccolo could no longer completely ignore all of his attacks like before, he was still defending with ease. Looking at Piccolo's composed face, Frieza felt absolutely no pressure from him despite his own torrential assault. Without stopping his hand attacks, Frieza delivered a knee strike, attempting to attack Piccolo's abdomen. Then let's compare strength. Piccolo also raised his knee. Clang! Their knees collided violently. The two figures locked in combat separated. However, it was obvious that Frieza retreated significantly farther than Piccolo. In terms of raw strength, Frieza was clearly inferior to Piccolo. Whoosh! Piccolo proactively rushed toward Frieza and threw a punch. Frieza ignored the pain radiating from his knee. He extended his palm, trying to catch the punch Piccolo was sending his way. Frieza quickly realized that the Piccolo who rushed toward him was only an afterimage. His defense was utterly useless. Bang! Piccolo appeared behind Frieza, driving an elbow strike into Frieza's lower back. Frieza's body uncontrollably flew forward. Ah! Just as Frieza managed to stabilize himself, Piccolo had already arrived at his side. He delivered a chop aimed horizontally at Frieza's neck. Who? Frieza hastily dodged, barely managing to evade the attack. Frieza returned a punch to Piccolo. Piccolo ducked his head to avoid the attack. Boom! He slammed a punch into Frieza's abdomen. Ah! Frieza spat out a mouthful of purple blood. His body bent into an arc, he flew backward. The power Frieza is using now is clearly much stronger than when he fought me earlier. But even with this immense power, he is being completely suppressed by Piccolo. Son Goku said with an expression of deep emotion. After withdrawing from the battle with Frieza, he, like everyone else, continued to watch the fight. In Son Goku's heart now, surpassing Piccolo had become the greatest goal of his life. Why is the gap between this prince and them so vast? Compared to Son Goku, Vegeta's mood was far more complicated. His strength was worse than Kakarot's. At least Kakarot could exchange a few blows with the final form of Frieza. This Saiyan prince couldn't even defeat Frieza's third form, which preceded his final form. With such a massive gap between his strength and theirs, would he truly have a chance to catch up in this lifetime? Perhaps, the only hope for this Saiyan prince to catch up to Piccolo's strength. The only hope was to transform into the legendary Super Saiyan. Compared to Son Goku and Vegeta, who both wanted to surpass Piccolo, Gohan currently only had one thought. That was, Uncle Piccolo is the strongest person. It's impossible for anyone in this world to be stronger than him. Gohan greatly admired Piccolo. He didn't aspire to surpass Uncle Piccolo, he only hoped that through diligent cultivate, he could narrow the gap between himself and Uncle Piccolo. Krillin and the others, Piccolo 666. The fight between Piccolo and Frieza was so dazzling that it left them dizzy, turning them into mere spectators who could only shout 666. Frieza's subordinates. Woo woo woo. Lord Frieza. You mustn't lose. We are extremely worried. While everyone was lost in thought, the battle between Piccolo and Frieza continued. Tisk. 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 Frieza frantically fired death beams. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Piccolo approached Frieza while dodging. Bang. An uppercut. Thump. A whip kick. After passing through the barrage of death beams, Piccolo unleashed two attacks on Frieza. Watching Frieza fly backward, Piccolo chose not to pursue him. He threw a punch from where he stood. Piccolo, whose body remained stationary, had his arms stretch out bizarrely and rapidly. It became very long, easily dozens of meters. Boom. Frieza's face was squarely hit by the fist Piccolo sent over. Piccolo stretched out the arm of his other hand as well. Clang clang clang. Separated by dozens of meters, Piccolo continuously punched Frieza's face with his two elongated arms. Ah! Frieza's expression was contorted in extreme pain. What the hell kind of move is this? The Frieza Forces database did confirm that the natives of planet Namek possessed the miraculous ability to extend their arms. Piccolo's punching speed was too fast. Frieza, at 70% of his strength and 84 million battle power, was completely unable to dodge. This forced him to endure punch after punch from Piccolo. He felt dizzy and disoriented, with blood constantly trickling from the corner of his mouth. Watching Frieza, who was utterly defenseless against his elongated arms, Piccolo didn't want to push him too hard. It wouldn't be good if he accidentally killed him prematurely or knocked him unconscious into shock. Swoosh. He retracted his two elongated arms back to normal. Piccolo's cessation of the attack allowed Frieza a moment to breathe. Hoo. He gasped for air in huge gulps. Frieza glared at Piccolo, his eyes wide with rage, while wiping the blood still trickling from the corner of his mouth. This Emperor of the Universe Frieza, in all his life, had never been this battered after transforming into his final form. This was a first. I told you a long time ago that your 70% strength still wouldn't be enough, but you wouldn't believe me and insisted on getting beaten. Piccolo shook his head, feeling somewhat helpless. Frieza was increasing his strength like squeezing toothpaste. Why couldn't he just be straightforward and use his full strength all at once so Piccolo could complete his mission? Nevertheless, the opponent had now used 70% of his strength. So, although it was a bit drawn out, reaching the 100% progress bar wasn't too far off. Frieza was extremely unwilling to accept Piccolo's words, yet he truly had no way to refute them. His 70% strength was simply no match for Piccolo. His 70% strength only served to get him thoroughly thrashed in front of Piccolo. Perhaps he really should use 100% of his strength, even if it meant enduring the burden of an overloaded body as the price. Oh ho. Since you are so eager to see this king's 100% strength, then this king will reluctantly grant your wish. After a brief adjustment, Frieza's previously chaotic aura gradually stabilized. Tap. Frieza descended back to the ground. Although he was very reluctant to use 100% of his strength, because the surging power made him feel extremely uncomfortable and physically distressed. But having been pushed this far by Piccolo, he had no choice but to use it. Once this king unleashes his full strength, you will face endless hell. Frieza looked up at Piccolo, who was still airborne, and spoke viciously. After speaking, he began mobilizing the terrifying power hidden deep within his body, a power that even he felt a slight fear of. Crunch. Frieza gritted his teeth, clenching his fists tightly with maximum effort. Boom. His feet, firmly planted on the ground, cracked the surface into a spiderweb pattern. Centered around his body, the ground in all directions constantly shattered and collapsed. 75%, 80%. As Frieza grew stronger, the surrounding environmental storm intensified dramatically. Hey, you certainly made me wait. Now, finally, I can. Piccolo also returned to the ground, quietly sensing Frieza's continuously expanding energy. He knew that Frieza's 100% strength progress bar was about to be filled. Rumble. The sky was covered in dark clouds, with lightning flashing and thunder roaring. As Frieza came closer to releasing 100% of his strength, the ground shook incessantly, and the entire earth seemed to tremble slightly. At this point, Frieza's energy had reached 90%. Frieza's originally petite and delicate body now became extremely muscular. Frieza, whose veins were bulging all over his body, had an exceptionally ferocious expression on his face. So terrifying. Frieza's power deeply shocked, even terrified, the onlookers. Frieza's chi intensity had already surpassed Piccolo's. This chi is too terrifying. Can Piccolo still defeat Frieza? Krillin was drenched in sweat, his legs weak. Frieza's terrifying, suffocating sense of oppression caused him immense psychological stress just by watching, without even having to fight him. Uncle Krillin, don't worry. Uncle Piccolo cannot lose. No matter how strong Frieza becomes, the winner will definitely only be Uncle Piccolo. Although Gohan also found Frieza's current aura frighteningly huge, he maintained unwavering confidence in his master, Piccolo. Gohan is right. Besides, all we can do now is choose to believe in Piccolo, isn't that right? Son Goku walked over and steadied Krillin, who was about to collapse onto the ground. He still maintained an optimistic attitude. Encouraged by the words of Son Goku and his son, everyone slowly suppressed the fear in their hearts and refocused all their attention back on the battlefield. Continuing to watch the battle between Piccolo and Frieza, which would decide the fate of Earth. Rumble. Streaks of lightning continuously flashed across the sky. The deafening sound echoed through the clouds. The earth trembled violently, and within 10,000 miles, the sea was turbulent, and the fierce winds howled. 97%. 98%. 99%. Ha! Following a roar that shook heaven and earth. Frieza completely unleashed the energy hidden within his body, using 100% of his power. The strange phenomena in the heavens and earth slowly subsided, and the surrounding environment became calm. Frieza's muscles at this moment were frighteningly exaggerated, giving off an unparalleled sense of power. He looked like an incredibly robust little giant. Oh ho ho ho! I have kept you waiting. This is the true power of I, the Cosmic Emperor, 100% of my strength. Are you ready to die? Frieza looked at Piccolo with a demonic smile. The long-lost confidence had clearly resurfaced on his face. Although his previous battles with Piccolo had been repeatedly frustrated, Frieza did not believe there was any possibility of him losing to Piccolo now that he was using 100% of his power. Based on the recent fight, he estimated Piccolo's battle power to be around 100 million. Although his current body was under immense strain, he now possessed an invincible battle power of 120 million. Relying on his astonishing and invincible 120 million battle power that dominated the universe, he believed he could thoroughly defeat Piccolo within minutes. Piccolo did not reply to Frieza. Instead, he focused intently on the battle power reading displayed on the system panel in his mind. Frieza's battle power value was clearly written as 120 million points. The prerequisite for the system mission had been met, now he only needed to defeat Frieza. Oh ho ho ho! Has my power scared you speechless? Seeing Piccolo fail to respond, Frieza sneered maliciously. Having finished speaking, he wasted no more words. His power-filled legs furiously stomped the ground. Rumble. Large sections of the ground beneath his feet collapsed into dust. Frieza's terrifyingly robust body pushed his speed attribute to the extreme, rocketing toward Piccolo with thunderous force. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. His body carried a fierce wind, and in an instant, Frieza was already in front of Piccolo. Such speed. Son Goku and the others could not clearly see Frieza's movements, they only felt that Frieza had appeared before Piccolo in a flash. Oh ho ho ho! Watch how I, the king, will tear you to shreds. Frieza launched a swift and powerful punch toward Piccolo's face. Piccolo, with 100 million battle power in his 2x Kaioken state, chose not to resist. Bang! A trickle of blood flowed from Piccolo's mouth, and his body was sent spinning by Frieza's blow. Frieza, seizing the advantage, continued his assault. Swish! He circled to Piccolo's side and clasped his hands together. The two massive fists, joined together, swung violently toward Piccolo. Piccolo turned his body to face Frieza directly and raised his arms to block in front of his chest. Thud! Frieza's attack carried immense impact, forcing Piccolo's body to rapidly retreat uncontrollably. Swish! Frieza followed quickly, trailing sonic booms behind him. He lifted his leg and violently kneed Piccolo. Piccolo's arms, crossed in front of his chest, were knocked aside. Clang! His chin took the full force of Frieza's knee strike. His body was carried upward by the momentum. Whoosh! Frieza used his maximum speed to bypass Piccolo's position, arriving thousands of meters directly above him in an instant. Yah! Frieza shouted, bending his waist, his hands clenched tightly. Buzz! A massive spherical energy orb enveloped Frieza's body. He straightened his body, his hands forming fists held in front of him. In a Superman-like flying posture, Frieza, his body encased in the gigantic energy orb, plunged straight down toward Piccolo. Frieza felt like a falling meteor at that moment. Unstoppable. Boom! Piccolo was fiercely struck by Frieza. His body, which had been rising due to inertia, plummeted rapidly. A moment later, Piccolo's body slammed into the ground like a cannonball. Rumble. Dust filled the sky, rocks flew everywhere, and countless fragments shot upward due to the powerful impact. The earth shook continuously. Within 10,000 miles, countless mountain ranges were shattered and pulverized by the intense aftershocks of the impact. As the smoke and dust slowly dissipated, an enormous crater gradually appeared. Piccolo. Looking at the bottomless depression, everyone couldn't help but worry about Piccolo's safety. Piccolo had clearly been dominating Frieza earlier, but after the opponent used his full power, Piccolo began to be suppressed by Frieza, finding himself at a disadvantage in the battle. Could it be that Piccolo was no match for Frieza at 100% of his power? Just as everyone was frowning and thinking the worst of the situation, Gohan reminded everyone. Everyone, actually, we don't need to worry too much. Although Uncle Piccolo seemed to be losing and at a disadvantage in the recent fight. But if you sense carefully, Uncle Piccolo's chi has not weakened at all compared to before. Hearing Gohan say this, everyone came back to their senses. That's right. Although Frieza's recent attacks looked incredibly fierce, judging by the strength of Piccolo's current aura, Piccolo had not actually suffered any truly substantial damage from Frieza's assault. Piccolo's aura strength had not decreased even slightly compared to before. Meanwhile, Frieza in the sky could not sense chi. Looking at the ruined, messy crater on the ground, he was extremely smug and excited at the moment. In his mind, having endured such a fierce attack, Piccolo should be severely wounded, even if he wasn't dead. It could be said that even if the victor hadn't been fully decided yet, he, Emperor of the Universe Frieza, was already close to truly winning the final victory of this battle. Oh ho ho ho. As expected, I, the king, am the strongest in the universe. As long as I, the king, use my true power, it is simply impossible for anyone in this universe to be my opponent. Frieza declared that he was invincible. He accepted no refutations. Just then, boom, Piccolo shot up from the crater. However, his clothes looked slightly tattered. That's great. Piccolo really is fine. Although Krillin and the others could tell Piccolo was fine based on his aura, seeing him safe and sound with their own eyes made them feel even more relieved. Oh ho ho ho. Not dead. Frieza withdrew his thoughts and curled his lip. That's fine too. Killing this Namekian instantly would be too boring, it would be better to torture him slowly before finishing him off. Whoosh. After bursting out of the crater, Piccolo raised his body to the same height as Frieza. Then, the two sides locked eyes, staring at each other. Oh ho ho ho. Actually, it would be better if you were just killed by this king right now. If you die immediately, you will at least suffer less pain. Frieza cast a look of mockery and pity toward Piccolo. Since the opponent hadn't died instantly just now, Frieza decided he would make him fully enjoy a pain even more terrifying than going to hell. Huh. Frieza, you are far too conceited. I deliberately held back just now to let you gain an advantage. Did you think you were capable again? To be honest, your 100% power is really nothing special. It's not worth me paying attention to at all. Piccolo completely disregarded Frieza's ridicule, instead showing an expression of disdain and playfulness. It was as if the beating Frieza had just given him hadn't happened. Oh ho ho ho. Held back. This king's 100% power is nothing special. You don't take this king's power seriously. What boasts are you making? Don't you know when to stop talking nonsense? In Frieza's eyes, Piccolo was just running his mouth. He had absolute confidence in his 100% power. After all, that was the strongest power he, the Cosmic Emperor, could utilize. Moreover, he had genuinely succeeded in giving Piccolo a good thrashing just moments ago. Didn't that already prove that he was stronger than Piccolo? Without a doubt, Frieza was the strongest in the universe. There was no mistake about it. Ka. Frieza clenched his fists in front of him, making a cracking sound. He was already impatient to continue dealing with Piccolo. Come on, Frieza. Piccolo smiled and beckoned Frieza with his finger, signaling the opponent to bring everything he had. Not a single trace of fear towards Frieza could be seen in his eyes. His entire demeanor gave off a sense of calm ease. Oh ho ho ho. This king intends to see whether your mouth is harder, or this king's fist is harder. Saying this, Frieza, wearing a sinister grin, lowered his body. Crouching slightly, he bent his right arm far back, gathering power. The next second, whoosh. Having finished gathering power, Frieza shot out like lightning. He forcefully smashed his fully charged right fist towards Piccolo's face. He had put every ounce of effort into this punch. Frieza wanted to see how Piccolo could continue running his mouth after taking this blow. Piccolo neither dodged nor retreated. Facing Frieza's punch brimming with killing intent. The corner of his mouth twitched, and then he quickly sent out his own fist. Oh ho ho ho. Seeing this, Frieza gave a cold laugh. He had great confidence in himself. This punch had maximized all the power attributes he could utilize. How dare this individual from planet Namek choose to meet him head-on? The opponent was practically seeking death. Boom. Piccolo and Frieza's heavy fists collided fiercely, meeting dead center. Hoo hoo hoo. Centered on the point of impact, bursts of loud explosions erupted, causing the surrounding air to tremble as if it were twisting. The incredibly powerful shockwave spread out in all directions. Rumble. Countless mountain ranges crumbled and disintegrated, sending rocks flying everywhere. How is this possible? Why is this king the one who lost? Feeling the numbness in his fist, Frieza's face was filled with shock. Everything happening now made Frieza's heart reel in disbelief. Piccolo, meanwhile, remained composed, unshaken even as Mount Tai crumbled before him. In contrast, Frieza's body bent due to the immense impact force. His body was violently sent flying backward like a cannonball. What Frieza didn't know was that just an instant before their fists collided, Piccolo had already increased the multiplier of his Kaioken from 2 times to 3 times. Piccolo's combat power instantly increased from the original 100 million to 150 million. From this moment on, Piccolo's strength had completely surpassed Frieza's 120 million combat power. Whoosh! Accompanied by the sonic boom's trail, Piccolo, whose body was enveloped in scarlet chi flames, accelerated and chased after Frieza. He quickly overtook Frieza, who was flying backward, and maneuvered behind him. Bang! Piccolo aimed precisely at Frieza's lower back and mercilessly delivered a heavy kick. The intense pain in his body caused Frieza's face to twist and deform. Moreover, his body rapidly shot backward again in the opposite direction. Gulu Lulu. Frieza performed several consecutive backflips before barely managing to shed the inertial force on his body. At this moment, Frieza was so furious his eyes seemed to spit fire. What was happening now seemed to be validating everything Piccolo had just said. A feeling of humiliation, like being slapped in the face, filled Frieza's heart. Frieza unleashed his chi, enveloped in vigorous purple chi flames, he accelerated and charged toward Piccolo once more. Ha! Frieza's eyes were fierce as he relentlessly attacked Piccolo with a flurry of punches and kicks. He wanted to tear Piccolo to shreds. Meanwhile, Piccolo defended against the attacks and said disdainfully. How is it? Do you still think what I said earlier was just running my mouth? Frieza was extremely enraged by Piccolo's taunt. However, he could only rage powerlessly. Because all of his current attacks were being blocked one by Piccolo. Piccolo's defense was like an impenetrable fortress, he couldn't break through at all. I really wasn't lying to you. Your 100% power truly is nothing special. Bang! Piccolo delivered a powerful, wind-whipping heavy punch, slamming into Frieza's abdomen. In that instant, Frieza's mouth dropped open, and he felt his entire body spasm. He couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of bloody bile. At this moment, a hint of confusion began to grow in Frieza's heart. Was Frieza having a nightmare right now? He had already utilized 100% of his power. Why, after using his full strength as the strongest in the universe, was he still unable to defeat the opponent? Everything happening now was far too unreasonable. But Piccolo's next attack quickly shattered Frieza's unrealistic thoughts. Frieza, you were not dreaming, everything happening now was real. Piccolo raised his knee. Boom! A swift knee strike slammed directly into Frieza's chin. Frieza, jolted as if waking from a dream, was sent soaring high into the sky by Piccolo. His body flew upward uncontrollably. Frieza used every ounce of strength he had to steady himself. He gritted his teeth as he looked at Piccolo, who was positioned below him. Although his body was currently racked with pain delivered by Piccolo, he still could not accept the fact that his 100% power was inferior to Piccolo's. Yada da da. Yada da da. Frieza's hands continuously repeated the action of firing energy waves at Piccolo. The prince's fighting style unleashed countless purple energy blasts, desperately rushing towards Piccolo. Piccolo shook his head. Facing Frieza's dense barrage of energy attacks, he he was too lazy to dodge each one individually. He placed 2 fingers on his forehead. Whoosh! He vanished from his spot with an instant transmission. Ah, this was much simpler. Rumble. Rumble. For the vanished Piccolo, the energy blasts fired by Frieza's, Prince's fighting style, could only smash into the ground. Then countless explosions occurred. For a moment, smoke and dust filled the air, rocks flew everywhere, and numerous craters of various sizes appeared on the ground. Where is he? Frieza only knew that Piccolo had disappeared, but he didn't know how he had vanished, as he wasn't very familiar with a skill like instant transmission. Unable to sense chi, he could only look around, trying to find Piccolo's location. Idiot! I'm above you. Hearing this, Frieza looked up. He saw that Piccolo had, at some unknown point, arrived directly above his head, arms crossed over his chest, looking at him with a somewhat mocking expression. When did you? Suddenly, Frieza seemed to realize something. The first time this Namekian tricked him, he likely used this very move. He could silently appear near him. Frieza, remember this move is called instant transmission. Since Frieza was about to be a dead man anyway, Piccolo didn't mind briefly explaining instant transmission to him. After speaking, Piccolo stomped down. Due to the extremely close distance between them, Frieza had no chance to dodge. Bang! A size 49 foot struck Frieza squarely in the face as he looked up. Frieza's facial expression was crushed into a mess, and his body plummeted rapidly towards the ground like a meteor. Rumble. A mushroom cloud suddenly rose, and Frieza smashed a massive crater into the ground. Thud. Piccolo landed on the edge of the crater. After the mushroom cloud dissipated. Looking at Frieza, who was now lying in the crater. His chi had clearly weakened at this point. On Piccolo's system detector, Frieza's combat power had dropped from the original 120 million to 100 million. The game was almost over. It seemed it was about time for him to completely eliminate Frieza. And Frieza's pathetic state, beaten and lying on the ground by Piccolo, was witnessed by Krillin and the others. Everyone also sensed the weakening of Frieza's chi. The dawn of peace seemed about to shine upon Earth. Piccolo is so strong, truly too strong. Krillin exclaimed with excitement. It proved that his previous worries were all unnecessary. Just as Goku said, they should trust Piccolo. Uncle Piccolo. Gohan's face was filled with admiration for Piccolo, his eyes full of little stars. He also wanted to cultivate diligently and become a strong person like Uncle Piccolo. Far ahead. This was Son Goku's greatest assessment of Piccolo at the moment. Frieza, who was so troublesome for him, was no match for Piccolo at all. Clearly, his strength and Piccolo's were already several levels apart. That arrogant Frieza. Among everyone, Vegeta's mood was the most complex at this moment. As Frieza's former subordinate, he understood Frieza's status in the entire universe better than anyone else. He could easily manipulate situations. How high and mighty was Frieza, the Cosmic Emperor, looking down on everything. Yet, such an existence, at this very moment, was still being thrashed by Piccolo even after using all his strength. Undoubtedly, Piccolo's strength had now reached the pinnacle of the universe. Number 1 in the universe. The strongest. Vegeta made up his mind, secretly vowing in his heart that no matter how difficult it was, he would definitely reach Piccolo's level of strength. And even surpass Piccolo. Suddenly, Vegeta's gaze became a little strange. He detected some unusual movement. Vegeta's mouth curved slightly upward, revealing a cold smile. Fr Frieza-sama is he going to lose? Frieza's subordinates, seeing their master still being thrashed after using every trick in the book, couldn't help but fall into a panicked state of helplessness. Zarbon, what should we do? Dodoria, whose brain was always a bit slow, tremblingly turned his head to Zarbon. Zarbon's expression was also very grim at this moment. He pursed his lips, his eyes suddenly becoming serious, and said, "Run, let's run." Dodoria was stunned. Ah. What about Frieza-sama? Although Dodoria's strength was not as good as Zarbon's, his loyalty to Frieza was clearly superior. Idiot. What time is it now? You still care about Frieza? Are you stupid? Moreover, even if we wanted to help, with our strength, there's nothing we can do, right? Zarbon was speechless at Dodoria's stupidity. Is your head filled with grass? After hearing Zarbon's words, Dodoria thought about it. He nodded, thinking that it made sense. After all, even if he was loyal, it was impossible to save Frieza at this moment. So, instead of dying with Frieza, he might as well run away. This couldn't be considered betrayal. This was force majeure. Okay then, Zarbin, let's hurry and run. Seeing that Dodoria's thick head had finally understood, Zarbin urged him quickly. We have to be fast. We must seize the opportunity to escape while the attention of these guys on Earth is focused on Frieza. Whoosh! Whoosh! Dodoria and Zarbin, at the fastest speed they could manage, rushed towards the spaceship. Let's escape too. Frieza's other small fry subordinates, seeing this, also quickly followed. After all, none of them wanted to die. The group followed closely behind Zarbin and Dodoria, and quickly entered the spaceship. Pressing the button, the spaceship's engine immediately started. Every one of them wanted to leave Earth quickly. The next second, the spaceship began to take off. However, the spaceship had just flown halfway into the air. Rumble. Just then, a sudden shockwave pierced through the spaceship's engine. What happened? Zarbin and Dodoria, and Frieza's other small fry subordinates, were all greatly alarmed. The spaceship, whose engine had suffered heavy damage, lost power and quickly plummeted toward the ground, emitting thick smoke. Rumble. The spaceship was forced to crash onto the ground, carving out a crater. Immediately, sand and rocks flew everywhere, and smoke billowed. And the one who destroyed the spaceship was none other than Vegeta, who had sensed the disturbance. After the smoke cleared through the spaceship's glass window, Zarbin looked at Vegeta, who was floating above the spaceship, looking down upon them condescendingly, arms crossed, and observing them with a mocking gaze. Zarbin suppressed the panic in his heart and quickly spoke. Vegeta, we were colleagues once. Do you really have to be so ruthless? Given your current strength, our fighting power poses absolutely no threat to you. Can't you just let us leave? Hearing this, Vegeta scoffed. He sneered and said, HMPH. Colleagues. Don't make me laugh. Zarbin, don't think this prince doesn't know. You people, just like that guy Frieza, have always looked down on a Saiyan. Do you think you'd treat this prince as a colleague? It was obvious that the colleague card was useless. Vegeta had no intention of letting them go, and Zarbin became even more anxious. After quickly thinking, he gritted his teeth, seemingly having made a decision, and spoke again to Vegeta. Vegeta. No, Prince Vegeta. As long as you let us go, we are willing to become your subordinates. As soon as these words were spoken, Vegeta hadn't reacted, but Dodoria was the first to lose his composure. Huh. Zarbin, what are you saying? How can we betray King Frieza? It was acceptable for him, Dodoria, to abandon Frieza and escape himself, as that was due to irresistible force, and could not be counted as betrayal. But for him to directly betray Frieza and become Vegeta's subordinate, the loyal Dodoria simply couldn't accept it. He couldn't overcome that hurdle in his heart. Idiot, shut your mouth. Zarbin angrily rebuked Dodoria. What time is it now? You fool, Dodoria, you're just causing me trouble. If you don't want to live, I still do. But, seeing that Dodoria still wanted to argue, Zarbin immediately covered his mouth tightly with his hand, preventing him from speaking further. Then Zarbin continued to flatter Vegeta with a smiling face. How about it, Prince Vegeta? What do you think of my suggestion? Finally, Vegeta answered Zarbin's question. His face was full of disdain. HMPH. Subordinates. This prince has absolutely no need for subordinates whose fighting power is only tens of thousands. Vegeta's tone was extremely cold. After speaking, he raised a hand, gathering energy in his palm, and aimed it at the spaceship. Ah, this. Zarbin still wanted to say something more, to struggle a bit. But Vegeta was already too lazy to waste any more words on them. Boom. A powerful burst of energy mercilessly shot towards the spaceship. The spaceship was rapidly engulfed by Vegeta's energy wave. Thus, Zarbin, Dodoria, and the small fry subordinates of Frieza were naturally all killed. GG. After finishing this, Vegeta refocused all his attention on the battlefield between Piccolo and Frieza. In fact, if it were the old Vegeta, the one who wanted to dominate the universe, he might have considered taking Zarbin and Dodoria as subordinates. After all, as a ruler of the universe, one must have some subordinates, right? Being a lone commander would be too boring. But the current Vegeta, especially after witnessing Piccolo's strength, had no other superfluous thoughts in his heart besides getting stronger. For a Saiyan, getting stronger is much more interesting than ruling the universe. Moreover, if he didn't surpass the strength of Piccolo, Kakarot, and others, ruling the universe would be inherently impossible. Piccolo naturally noticed what Vegeta had just done, but he smiled and didn't pay it much attention. It was just a pity about Frieza's technologically advanced spaceship. If he had put that thing into his system space, maybe he could have used it later. However, he might still have a chance later to acquire a large spaceship similar to those of the Frieza Force. For example, Cooler and King Cold might come to Earth to avenge Frieza. That is very likely. It wouldn't be too late to collect a spaceship belonging to Frieza's clan and put it into the system space at that time. Bang, bang, bang. Frieza was currently pounding the ground vigorously inside the crater. Although extremely unwilling, he had already accepted the fact that even using 100% of his fighting power, he was still inferior to Piccolo in strength. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Piccolo increased the multiplier of the Kaioken on his body from 3 times to 4 times, and his chi aura became even more intense. At this moment, Piccolo's fighting power had reached 200 million. Piccolo stretched out a hand toward Frieza, gathering a large amount of energy in his palm. Only one move was needed. Under the boost of 200 million fighting power. He only needed one move to completely defeat Frieza, whose fighting power had now dropped to just 100 million. The crimson chi aura around Piccolo grew denser, and Frieza noticed it. Frieza felt an intense killing intent emanating from Piccolo. Simultaneously, in a flash of lightning, a thought sparked in his mind. The Saiyan named Son Goku seemed to be able to use this crimson chi aura move as well. Frieza raised his head, looking fiercely at Piccolo, and asked, "Hey, what exactly is this crimson chi aura move you people are using?" Piccolo didn't know why Frieza suddenly asked this, but he still answered. "This move is called Kaioken. After using this move, the user's speed, strength, and defense can all be increased several times over." Upon hearing this, Frieza suddenly revealed a smile, and most of the gloom that had been on his face disappeared. "Oh ho ho ho. I see. Your move is indeed formidable. To be able to increase fighting power by such a large margin. It's even more impressive than the 100% power of me, the Cosmic Emperor. What are you trying to say?" Piccolo was slightly confused. "Oh ho ho ho. If I'm not mistaken, if you people don't use this move called Kaioken, your base fighting power is actually inferior to mine." A thought had already sprung up in Frieza's mind, perhaps he wouldn't lose this battle. Piccolo, upon hearing Frieza's words, frowned deeply, his brow furrowing tighter and tighter. You're absolutely right, but so what? If only base fighting power was counted, without using Kaioken, his Piccolo's fighting power was only 50 million, which was indeed incomparable to Frieza's 120 million fighting power. Frieza slowly crawled out of the crater, the smile on his face beginning to look sinister, and he continued. "In other words, if we only talk about base fighting power, my strength is still number 1 in the universe. You relied on this special move to surpass my strength." Frieza's mouth was already stretched back to his ears, and the smile on his face became increasingly wanton. "So, what would happen if I, too, could use that move of yours called Kaioken?" Frieza believed he had found the opportunity to turn defeat into victory. He had now climbed out of the crater, arms spread wide, his body slowly floating into the air, his eyes filled with extraordinary sharpness. Suddenly, Piccolo had a terrible premonition. Alarm bells were ringing. If we all use that move called Kaioken, this king, whose base combat power is stronger, will undoubtedly become stronger than all of you. Frieza's body could be seen gradually beginning to emit scarlet chi flames. Frieza had actually learned Kaioken in a life or death situation, finding a path to survival from despair. No, this is bad. Piccolo immediately fired all the energy he held in his hand. But clearly, it was too late. Just as the energy wave was about to strike Frieza's body, the Kaioken multiplier on Frieza's body had already reached 3x, achieving a combat power of 300 million. Facing Piccolo's attack, the intense scarlet chi flames erupting from Frieza's body scattered Piccolo's energy wave. Frieza was completely unharmed, and the aura around him was still rapidly strengthening. 400 million, 500 million, 600 million. As the stacked Kaioken multiplier grew higher and higher, Frieza's energy became increasingly powerful. Frieza had truly learned Kaioken. 700 million, 800 million, 900 million. Finally, Frieza raised the Kaioken multiplier on his body to the maximum of 10 times. His combat power also reached an astonishing 1 billion. If it weren't for the large amount of energy he had previously consumed. If he could have used Kaioken while his energy was fully charged, Frieza's combat power could have been even higher. His maximum combat power could even reach a terrifying 1.2 billion. Oh ho ho ho. This power is truly too strong. It's magnificent. This king loves it. Frieza laughed heartily, his face full of excitement. Strong, it's truly too strong, this move of yours called Kaioken. No wonder this move allowed you ants to surpass the strength of this king. And now this king has also learned this move. Then the throne of the strongest in this universe has, naturally, returned to this king's hands once again. Crunch, crunch. Frieza tightly clenched his fists, feeling the incomparably mighty surge of power within his body. Piccolo's face was filled with shock and horror. He never expected such a thing to happen. However, after thinking about it, he quickly accepted it. After all, in Dragon Ball Super, Frieza's strength was able to rise from his original 120 million combat power to a level capable of matching Son Goku's Super Saiyan Blue after only cultivating for 4 months. It was not strange for a prodigy with peerless talent like Frieza to temporarily learn Kaioken during such a life and death crisis. After all, he had previously fought Son Goku, and combined with his fight against Piccolo, Frieza had consecutively fought 2 people who could use the Kaioken move. After 2 waves of fighting, it was reasonable that the prodigy Frieza managed to learn Kaioken at this critical moment of life and death. Monster, we painstakingly learned Kaioken on King Kai's planet. That guy Frieza actually learned it just by fighting 2 battles. Krillin's eyes were wide open, his face full of disbelief. Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, and Xiaosu shared the same feeling as Krillin. That's right, the ultimate Kaioken move that they had struggled so hard to master, Frieza learned casually. It could be said that there was an insurmountable gap in talent between them and Frieza. A talent gap like this could no longer be bridged by mere effort. Of course, what is more important is the immediate crisis. They were unsure if Piccolo could still defeat Frieza now that Frieza had learned Kaioken. Seeing that Piccolo was about to defeat Frieza, Vegeta had not expected such a sudden turn of events. Frieza is truly a terrifying fellow. A few drops of cold sweat also ran down Son Goku's forehead. However, he was not afraid. If Piccolo was defeated, even if he himself was not Frieza's opponent, he would choose to fight to the death. Uncle Piccolo. Even Gohan, who had always had confidence in Piccolo, couldn't help but feel worried. After all, Piccolo's base fighting strength was clearly inferior to Frieza's. This was because Piccolo had never fought with his full strength since his transmigration. Therefore, no one knew that the Kaioken used by Piccolo was actually different from theirs. Piccolo, who held the 20x no-damage Kaioken as his trump card, was already poised and ready. He was waiting for Frieza, who had used 10 times Kaioken, to attack him at any moment. At this moment, Piccolo felt a faint excitement in his heart. The battle intent within him was soaring. Ever since his transmigration to this Dragon Ball world, things had been too smooth sailing, making him feel that he lacked a bit of passion and excitement. But now, he could finally fight a truly satisfying battle, holding nothing back and going all out. However, the scene Piccolo had imagined, Frieza actively attacking him for a hearty, close-quarters combat, did not occur. Swoosh. Frieza was seen flying toward the sky, going higher and higher. What is he doing? Confusion was written all over everyone's faces. Frieza, high in the sky, raised both hands high above his head. However, it was clear that this movement was not meant to signal surrender. Frieza, enveloped in a scarlet chi aura and empowered by 10 times Kaioken, was seen. Where his hands were raised. With a buzz, a purple energy sphere appeared. Frieza was about to use the move his Frieza's clan was most proficient at. The Planet Crusher. Although Frieza had gained super strength far surpassing his previous power after learning Kaioken, he was not blinded by the incomparably abundant energy within his body. After experiencing the sense of power that Kaioken brought him for a moment, Frieza had already noticed the side effects of this move. Although this move could greatly enhance his power, multiplying his fighting strength by 10 times. The cost was that after using this move, his body had to constantly endure a certain burden. The physical strain of 100% power, coupled with the physical burden inflicted by Kaioken. Under this double burden, Frieza could sense that his power, after reaching its peak of 1 billion fighting strength, had begun to slowly decrease. The chi inside his body was draining, showing a trend of growing weaker and weaker. Therefore, to prevent further complications, he decided to quickly end all combat on Earth. The planet crusher in Frieza's hand contained increasingly terrifying energy, and its size grew larger and larger. Crackle, crackle. Terrifying lightning continuously snaked across the surface of the planet crusher. 10 meters in diameter. 100 meters in diameter. 1,000 meters in diameter. Frieza continuously poured the energy from inside his body maniacally into the planet crusher. Ya! Veins bulged violently on Frieza's forehead. He roared incessantly, pouring all the energy within his body into the planet crusher. Not only did he want to kill Piccolo and the others, but he also intended to destroy the Earth along with them. The diameter of the planet crusher had already reached an astonishing 10,000 meters. To Krillin and the others on the ground, the 10,000-meter diameter planet crusher looked like a small sun emitting a deathly purple glow. What is he trying to do? Is he trying to destroy the Earth? The terrifying aura emanating from the planet crusher sent chills down Krillin's spine, leaving his face covered in cold sweat. His legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the ground. Wait a minute. If that guy destroys the Earth, isn't he worried that he will die too? Yamcha asked, puzzled. You idiot. At that moment, Vegeta spoke up. He couldn't help but feel anxious internally. Vegeta was quite knowledgeable about Frieza and his Frost Demon race. That Frieza guy has the ability to survive in the vacuum of the universe. So even if the Earth is destroyed, Frieza won't die. Vegeta clenched his fists and explained to the crowd. That hateful Frieza actually used this move. He was too treacherous and lacked any sense of martial ethics. Vegeta cursed Frieza inwardly. Vegeta had completely forgotten the fact that he himself had once wanted to destroy the Earth. Son Goku closed his eyes and imagined the scenario of himself using the Kamehameha wave to intercept Frieza's planet crusher. Soon, he opened his eyes and shook his head helplessly. With his current strength, it would simply be trying to smash a rock with an egg. His Kamehameha wave could not possibly withstand Frieza's planet crusher. Does Uncle Piccolo have a way to stop Frieza? Gohan wondered. Thinking this, he shifted his gaze from Frieza high in the sky to Piccolo, who was on the ground, also looking up at the sky. It could be said that if anyone could stop Frieza from destroying the Earth right now, it could only be Piccolo, the strongest among them. But Piccolo's base battle power was clearly inferior to Frieza's. Gohan was certain of this after watching the repeated battles just now. Gohan hoped to see a glimmer of hope on Piccolo's face, perhaps his master would have some way to deal with all of this. Piccolo noticed Gohan's gaze. He turned his head and nodded at Gohan, reassuring his disciple. Seeing this, Gohan suppressed the worry and anxiety in his heart. His master was not a reckless person who spoke carelessly. Although he didn't know the specifics, his master, Piccolo, should already have a plan to deal with the current situation. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The crimson chi aura intensified. Piccolo raised the Kaioken multiplier on his body to 10 times, bringing his personal battle power value to 500 million. For the regular Kaioken, 10 times was the maximum multiplier a user could utilize without exceeding their physical limit. So strong. Krillin and the others quickly noticed Piccolo's action of drastically increasing his power. In their view, facing Frieza, who is currently trying to destroy them along with the Earth, Piccolo, as the strongest among them, must also be preparing to go all out. Thanks for watching.